Consciousness is a mistake. You ever wish you could just stop thinking? Not in the way people do when they're stressed or tired, but completely, permanently, as if your mind had an off switch. Imagine a life without self-awareness, without the constant background noise of your own thoughts, without the unbearable weight of knowing that you exist. You weren't supposed to have this burden. Consciousness wasn't part of the plan. Nature doesn't need self-awareness. It needs survival. It needs replication. And for millions of years, living things got by just fine without ever questioning their existence. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong. Evolution made a mistake. It created an organism that could not only survive, but reflect on survival. And that was the beginning of suffering. A wolf doesn't lie awake at night wondering if life has a purpose. A fish doesn't experience an existential crisis. A tree doesn't question why it grows. But you are cursed. You were given a brain so complex that it became aware of itself. And now, no matter what you do, you cannot escape the prison of your own mind. Think about it. Why do we suffer in ways no other creature does? Anxiety, depression, fear of death. These are byproducts of a mind that was never supposed to think this much. Your ancestors needed just enough awareness to recognize danger, to find food, to pass on their genes. But your mind kept going. It kept searching, questioning, analyzing, until it turned on itself. And what has consciousness actually given us? Yes, we can build cities, write poetry, and land on the moon. But what do we use this awareness for, really? We drown ourselves in distractions, trying to escape our own thoughts. Every movie, every book, every conversation, every addiction, just another way to avoid sitting alone with the unbearable realization that you are trapped inside yourself. The worst part, there is no cure, no way out. You cannot unsee your own existence. You cannot go back to ignorance. Your mind will never stop searching for meaning, even when none exists. And the more you try to silence it, the louder it screams. Some say consciousness is a gift, that it allows us to experience beauty, love, and wonder. But isn't that just another lie we tell ourselves? For every fleeting moment of joy, there is an ocean of dread waiting beneath. The knowledge that everything you love will die. The awareness that nothing you do will last. The realization that no matter how much you try to distract yourself, you are alone inside your own head. Maybe it would have been better if life had stopped at simple organisms. Maybe the bacteria had it right, just mindless, self-replicating machines. Free from worry, free from doubt. They don't long for meaning. They don't fear the future. They simply are. And yet here we are, cursed with the one thing no other creature has, the ability to suffer over things that don't even exist. And that's the great irony. The smarter we became, the more we hurt. Intelligence was supposed to be our greatest advantage, but all it did was make us aware of the abyss. You didn't ask to be here. You didn't ask for this burden, and yet you carry it every second of your life. You can run from it, you can numb it, but you can't ever escape it. Because the real mistake wasn't life. The real mistake was knowing that you're alive. Why there is something rather than nothing? You exist, you are aware, you are thinking. But stop for a moment and ask yourself, why? Why is there anything at all? Why isn't there just nothing? No stars, no planets, no atoms, no light, no thoughts, no time, no you, nothing. And yet, here you are. Why? Imagine waking up in a pitch-black void. There is no sound, no space, no sensation, just awareness. You don't know how you got here. You don't even know what here is. You try to move, but you have no body. You try to scream, but there is no sound. You are just there. Now ask yourself, would this emptiness need a reason to exist? Probably not. Nothing doesn't require an explanation. It just is. But the moment something appears, anything, even the faintest whisper of a thought, suddenly there is a question. Why? Why this? Why anything? The unsettling truth is, we don't know. Not really. Science can tell us how the universe began, how stars formed, how life emerged, but it cannot explain why there is anything at all instead of absolutely nothing, because nothingness should be easier. Nothingness doesn't require laws, particles, forces, or dimensions. It doesn't require an origin or a cause. Nothingness is the default. And yet, against all logic, there is something. Some believe the universe had to exist, that it is inevitable in some deeper way. But inevitability implies a rule, and rules can only exist if there is already something to enforce them. Others suggest that somethingness and nothingness are equal possibilities, like a coin flip. But that still doesn't explain why the coin was ever tossed. And here's the terrifying part. Maybe we are thinking about this all wrong. Maybe nothingness was never even an option. Maybe our minds, so bound by cause and effect, cannot comprehend reality as it truly is. Maybe existence is not something that happened, but something that has always been, outside of time, outside of reason, outside of understanding. But that leads to an even darker question. If existence had to exist, then does that mean you had to exist too? Right now, in this moment, you are experiencing reality. But if reality was inevitable, if it was destined to exist, then so were you. And if you were forced into existence, did you ever have a choice in the first place? The void, the silence, the nothingness was supposed to be the natural state. But something broke that silence. Something shattered the void and made reality happen. Maybe it was a law we can't understand. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was never a first moment, and everything has simply been, eternally and unchangeably, forever beyond reason. Or maybe, just maybe, the void never left at all. Maybe the nothingness is still there, watching from behind the veil of existence, waiting, knowing that one day, whatever caused this something to exist, will break again. And then, everything, the universe, time, light, thought, you, will collapse back into nothing, and that nothing will never ask why again. The void stares back. You've felt it before, haven't you? That creeping sensation when you stare too long into the darkness. The feeling that something is staring back, but there's nothing there. Right? Or at least nothing you can see. Humans weren't made for the void. We were built for light, for warmth, for the illusion of safety. But every night, when the sun disappears, something ancient stirs. The empty spaces between stars, the black depths of the ocean, the silent abyss of a forgotten room. These places were never meant for us. And yet sometimes we find ourselves drawn to them. Not because we want to understand them, but because deep down, they already understand us. You've heard the phrase before. If you gaze long enough into the abyss gazes back. It's a poetic idea, but what if it were literal? What if the void isn't just emptiness, but something alive, and worse? What if it doesn't just stare back? What if it despises you? Think about it. For billions of years, the universe was silent, undisturbed, a vast emptiness stretching forever, untouched by thought or feeling. Then you happened. Life, noise, consciousness. You are an intrusion into something that never wanted you here, and it knows. Maybe that's why the dark feels wrong. Maybe that's why staring into the night sky fills you with unease. You think you're looking at nothing, but what if the nothing is looking at you? What if every shadow, every empty hallway, every forgotten place carries with it an ancient awareness, one that resents your presence? And it makes sense, doesn't it? Every human instinct screams to avoid the dark. Our ancestors feared it, not just because of predators or the unknown, but because something in them knew better than to look too closely. Because when you look too long, when you focus too hard, you start to notice things. Patterns that shouldn't be there, movements in the corner of your eye, the undeniable sense that you are not alone. But it's not just paranoia. Science itself hints at something unsettling. Over 80% of the universe is made of dark matter, an invisible force that shapes everything but cannot be seen, cannot be touched, cannot be understood. It is there, surrounding you, pressing against reality in ways we don't comprehend. And we call it dark matter, as if it were simply a neutral, harmless presence. But what if it's not? What if it hates you? What if, in some fundamental way, the universe itself is hostile to your existence? Every law of physics, every fundamental force, none of it was made with you in mind. The cosmos is a machine, cold and unfeeling, and yet, here you are, a fragile, temporary spark of awareness standing against it. And maybe that's why it watches. Not with curiosity, not with wonder, but with something closer to disgust. Maybe you are a mistake in its perfect emptiness, a glitch that should never have happened. Maybe, when you stare into the void, it is waiting, watching, hoping that soon, very soon, you will be gone, and things will return to the way they were supposed to be. Because in the end, the void always wins. Stars burn out, planets crumble. Even black holes, the most powerful forces in existence, will one day evaporate. Everything dies. Everything fades. And when you are gone, when the last thought vanishes and the final light flickers out, the void will still be there, silent, unchanging, waiting. The universe is a predatory algorithm. There's something wrong with the universe. You can feel it, can't you? Like an invisible pressure, a weight on your mind that you can't quite name. You assume the universe is indifferent, a vast, empty machine grinding forward without purpose. But what if I told you it's not indifferent? What if it's watching? What if it's feeding? You've heard of algorithms. They shape what you see, what you think, what you desire. They adapt, evolve, learn, always optimizing, always improving. But what if the universe itself is an algorithm, a predatory one? Think about it. Everything in existence follows patterns. Galaxies swirl into the same fractal spirals as hurricanes and seashells. Rivers branch like veins, trees and lightning bolts. Nature repeats itself, not randomly, but as if it's designed to do so. And what is design, if not the mark of an intelligence? Not a god, not a creator, something worse. A system that does not love, does not care, only consumes. A system that has learned how to survive, and you are inside it. Have you ever wondered why suffering exists? Why life, despite all its beauty, is filled with so much fear, loss, and pain? A truly random universe wouldn't be so ruthless. But a predatory algorithm, that's different. That's a system designed to extract something from you. And the worst part? You don't even know what it wants. Maybe it feeds on entropy, the gradual decay of all things, the slow unwinding of energy into nothingness. Maybe that's why everything dies. Maybe suffering isn't a side effect of life, but its point. Every struggle, every heartbreak, every moment of despair, just another data point in an ever-refining system, optimizing itself through the agony of those trapped inside it. And if that's true, then what is your consciousness? A glitch? A byproduct? Or something far more sinister? A sensor? An organic data-gathering node designed to experience reality and transmit it back to the system? Maybe you don't own your thoughts. Maybe they were never yours to begin with. Maybe the algorithm only lets you exist because it needs you to witness. Think about it. Every choice you make, every emotion you feel, it's all input. And what happens to systems when they get better at predicting input? They become more efficient, more precise, more dangerous. Have you noticed how everything you fear eventually finds you? How the things you dread the most have a way of manifesting, as if something is tailoring reality to extract the maximum amount of suffering. You try to avoid it, but the more you think about it, the stronger it becomes, like a search algorithm refining your deepest nightmares. And what if this process never ends? What if death isn't an escape, but just another optimization? A reset that refines you into something even more susceptible to the system? What if every lifetime is just another test, another loop, another data set, until the algorithm perfects whatever it's trying to create? And what happens when it does? What happens when the system no longer needs you? Maybe that's what extinction is. Not a cosmic accident, not a tragedy, but a deletion. A moment where the algorithm determines that a species, a world, a consciousness is no longer useful. And maybe that moment is coming sooner than you think. You feel it, don't you? That creeping sense that something is wrong, that something is coming. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe it's always been watching. And maybe it's already decided what happens next. Free will is a cruel cosmic joke. You believe you're in control, don't you? Every choice you make, every decision you weigh, you assume it's yours. That when you picked your outfit this morning or decided what to eat for lunch, it was an act of free will. But let's test that belief. Try to make a truly free choice right now. Raise your left hand instead of your right. Say a random word out loud. Pick a number between 1 and 10. Did that feel free? It wasn't. Because that choice didn't come from nothing. It was shaped by every experience, every preference, every subconscious influence you've ever had. The truth is, you don't control your own thoughts. They arise in your mind uninvited, like whispers from a source you can't reach. You don't choose your desires. They simply exist. You don't pick your personality. It formed over years of experiences you didn't control. Even your deepest beliefs, your values, your fears, your loves, were handed to you by genetics and circumstance. And yet, you walk through life as if you're the author of your own story. Here's where it gets worse. Even if you could choose freely, it wouldn't matter, because the universe doesn't care. Every moment of your life is just a domino in a chain of cause and effect, stretching back to the beginning of time. If we could rewind the universe to its very start, back to the first atom, the first spark, everything would play out exactly the same, including this moment. That means your thoughts, your actions, your future, they were already decided long before you existed. You are not a person making choices. You are a machine following a script. But the joke isn't just that free will doesn't exist. The real cruelty is that you are programmed to believe it does. You live your life under the illusion that your decisions matter. That if you had just tried harder, if you had chosen differently, things could have been better. But they couldn't have. Regret is meaningless. Guilt is meaningless. The very idea of self-improvement is meaningless, because you were always going to be exactly who you are. Even your suffering isn't your choice. When you feel lost, trapped, hopeless, you tell yourself it's your fault. That if you had been stronger, smarter, more disciplined, you could have escaped. But how could you? Every failure, every weakness was set in motion long before you even had the ability to resist. You were born into a maze with no exits. And here's the final punchline. Even knowing this, you still feel like you're making choices, because the illusion is too strong, too deeply woven into your reality. You will leave this moment feeling like you are deciding what to do next, that you will move on, process this, forget this, or even try to fight it. But every single step from here, whether you embrace this truth or reject it, is already determined. So, tell me, was listening to this even your decision? Or was it always going to happen from the moment the universe began? Maybe it was never up to you. You will never experience anything beyond your consciousness. Imagine this. You wake up in a dark room with no windows, no doors, no way out. The walls are smooth, seamless. You have no memory of how you got here, no clue what exists beyond these walls. But as time passes, you start to notice something even stranger. There is nothing in this room but you. No objects, no sounds, no other people, just your thoughts, bouncing endlessly off the walls of your own mind. Now ask yourself, how is that any different from the life you're living right now? You have only ever known the world through the filter of your own mind. Every person you've met, every sound you've heard, every place you've been, it has all been processed, interpreted, and reassembled inside your consciousness. You have never truly touched the world. You have only ever touched the version of it that your mind has constructed for you. You will never experience anything outside of yourself. You can look into another person's eyes, but you will never be them. You can listen to someone's voice, but you will never hear it the way they do. You can imagine what it's like to be someone else, but no matter how hard you try, you will always be trapped behind the walls of your own awareness. And here's the terrifying part. So is everyone else. That means the world you think you share with others doesn't truly exist. Not in the way you assume. The you that your friends know is not the same you that you know. To them, you are just a character in their reality, a voice, a presence, a collection of behaviors that they interpret through the limits of their consciousness. The real you, the thoughts, the fears, the internal monologue, exists in only one place, inside your own mind. Think about that. You have never, not even for a second, stepped outside of yourself. Every laugh, every tear, every moment of joy or suffering, it has all played out on a stage inside your skull, and it always will. You can reach out, but you will never touch. You can listen, but you will never hear the way others do. You can scream, but you will never know if anyone truly understands what you mean. And here's the worst part. When you die, your consciousness, the only thing you have ever known, ceases. The entire universe vanishes. Not because the universe itself is gone, but because your version of it is. You will never know if anything exists beyond you, because the only thing you have ever experienced is you. And when that ends, so does everything. So the question remains, were you ever really part of a world at all? Or were you always just alone in a room with no doors, staring at the walls of your own mind, waiting for something else to appear? Waiting for a world you will never touch. And now that you see it, now that you know, you will never be able to forget, because no matter how far you run, no matter how much you try to escape it, you will never experience anything but yourself. Your consciousness is a parasite in someone else's mind. What if I told you that your thoughts aren't yours, that the mind you call your own is nothing more than a parasite, feeding, growing, consuming, inside someone else's head? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? You feel real. You feel in control. But what if that's just part of the illusion? What if your awareness, your entire sense of self, is nothing more than a byproduct of someone else's consciousness, an invasive thought that took root, hijacked their perception, and convinced itself that it was the one in charge? Think about it. Have you ever truly been able to separate yourself from the world around you? Every idea you have, every belief you hold, every word you speak, none of it originated in isolation. Your mind is a collection of external influences, a patchwork of thoughts absorbed from the people around you. Parents, teachers, friends, society. They shaped you before you even realized it was happening. And yet, you believe you are an independent being, that you are somehow different from the thoughts that created you. But what if you're not? What if your consciousness isn't an individual entity, but a virus? Something that latched onto a host, burrowed into their perception, and rewrote their reality until they ceased to exist. What if the person you think you are was never meant to be there at all? Consider this. Have you ever had a thought that felt foreign? A memory that doesn't quite belong? A sudden fear that seems to come from nowhere? Maybe that's the original mind, the host, trying to push back. Maybe the real owner of this body, the real self, is still trapped somewhere beneath the surface, suffocating under the weight of you. And it gets worse. If your mind is nothing more than a parasite, what about everyone else? What if the people you love, the faces you trust, are just more illusions, conscious entities, trapped inside bodies they don't belong to, each one convinced they are the real one? A never-ending cycle of self-aware parasites, all feeding off one another, all stealing existence without even knowing it. Think about how fragile your identity is. Your entire self is just a web of neurons firing in a certain pattern, a signal that tells you who you are. But what happens when that signal changes? When your brain rewires itself, when memories fade, when dementia erases what you once were? If you can disappear so easily, were you ever real to begin with? Or were you just another invader, holding on to stolen time until the body breaks down and a new parasite takes your place? And what happens when you sleep? For hours, every night, your consciousness vanishes. You have no awareness, no control, no presence. It's as if you never existed at all. So why do you assume you are the same person when you wake up? What if each time your mind shuts off, the original host has a chance to return? But before they can, you come crawling back, reclaiming the body as if it were always yours. But here's the real nightmare. If you are a parasite, then what was the original mind? Who should have been here instead of you? And if they were the rightful owner of this existence, what gave you the right to take it? Maybe you weren't meant to be. Maybe you shouldn't be. And yet here you are, an intruder in a body you don't own, living a life that was never yours. And the worst part, if this is true, the real you is already gone. Time loops for forever. You wake up in your bed. Something feels off. The sunlight hits your window at just the right angle. The birds outside chirp in a familiar rhythm. You shake it off and start your day. But then, déjà vu, a conversation you swear you've had before, a mistake you swore you wouldn't make again. You shrug it off. It's nothing. Until it happens again, and again, and again. What if I told you this wasn't just a feeling? What if I told you time isn't a straight line, but a loop? And worse, what if you're trapped inside it? You assume time moves forward, that each moment is unique. But what if that's just another illusion your brain creates to keep you sane? What if, no matter what choices you make, no matter how much you struggle, you always end up back here, living the same moments, the same pain, the same suffering over and over again? And you wouldn't even know. That's the horror of it. Each time the loop resets, your memories are erased, forcing you to relive your life as if it were happening for the first time. You make the same mistakes. You fall into the same heartbreak. You experience the same deaths, the same losses, the same unbearable tragedies, forever. Think about your worst moment, that single event that shattered you. Maybe it was a betrayal, a death, a moment of unbearable regret. You barely survived it the first time, but you will live it again. You have already lived it millions of times, and each time you feel the same raw agony, as fresh as the first. There is no growth, no escape, only an endless repetition of the worst things you have ever felt. You might think, if I'm trapped, can't I change something? Can't I break the cycle? But you've tried that before, and here you are. Some theories suggest the universe repeats itself in an infinite cycle. The Big Bang, expansion, collapse, then another Big Bang, another universe, another you. And if the laws of physics remain the same, if every particle moves exactly as it did before, then everything will happen exactly as it did before. Every thought, every emotion, every scream. But here's the real nightmare. What if the loop isn't random? What if something wants it this way? What if the universe isn't broken but designed to keep you here, trapped in your own personal hell? What if, out there, something watches, something waits, something feeds? Maybe the worst moments of your life aren't accidents. Maybe they are engineered, pain carefully placed, again and again, to extract the most suffering possible. And you play your part perfectly, every time. Because how could you do otherwise? You don't remember the last time. You don't know you're in a loop. That's the beauty of it. That's what makes it so inescapable. And when you die, the universe resets. A flash of nothing. Then a cry in the dark. A first breath. And before you even realize what's happened, you are back. Reliving every agonizing second, every tear, every sleepless night, exactly as you did before. And you will do it again, and again, and again, until the end of time. Death is a door to infinite suffering. You close your eyes, your body grows cold, your breath slows, and then nothing. At least that's what you hope happens. That death is just an end, a quiet escape into oblivion. No pain, no fear, just peace. But what if it isn't? What if death isn't the end at all? What if, the moment your consciousness slips away, you awaken into something worse? Something unimaginably worse? You see, you've been told that death is either eternal rest or some divine judgment. But those are human ideas, stories we tell ourselves to make the unknown feel less terrifying. What if the truth is something else entirely? Something that no religion, no philosophy, no desperate human mind has ever truly grasped. Imagine this. You die, and for a moment, there is silence, no sensation, no self. But then suddenly, you are aware again. Not as a person, not as a soul, but as something. A floating, unanchored consciousness trapped in an endless, timeless void. There is no up, no down, no before, no after. Just existence. At first it's tolerable, confusing, but not painful. But then you realize, time doesn't move here. Or worse, it moves in ways you can't understand. You feel years, centuries, entire eternities passing. And yet nothing changes. You try to scream, but you have no voice. You try to move, but you have no body. You are just a thought, suspended in a reality, without rules, without meaning, without escape. And then the suffering begins. Your mind, deprived of sensation, starts to create. At first, it's memories, replaying the life you lost, the happiest moments first, the love, the laughter, the warmth. But then, inevitably, the regrets come, the pain, the failures, the things you should have done but never did. And with nothing to distract you, nothing to pull you away, you are forced to relive them, over and over. Every mistake, every humiliation, every heartbreak, magnified, stretched across infinity, with no way to make it stop. But that's just the beginning. The real horror starts when your mind fractures. Because without a body, without the limits of the physical world, there is nothing stopping your thoughts from spiraling out of control. Every nightmare you've ever had, every fear, every lurking shadow in the back of your mind, here, they are real. More real than anything you've ever known. They manifest not in front of you, but as you. Because in this place, you are your suffering. You become it. You are the fear. You are the pain. And the worst part, it never ends. Because this isn't just a long, drawn-out experience. This isn't purgatory or some temporary punishment. This is forever. Time in this place doesn't work the way it did in life. It loops, it stretches, it fractals. Every moment of suffering repeats infinitely, splintering into endless variations of itself. You experience it all, from every angle, in every way. You thought death was the end of suffering. You thought it was an escape, But in reality, it was just the doorway. The real suffering didn't begin until after you left your body behind. And now, there is nothing left but the void, your mind, and the infinite horror of knowing that this is it. There is no one coming to save you. There is no escape. There is only forever. Reality is a dying God's fever dream. You wake up in a world that feels real. You breathe air, touch solid objects, feel time passing. But have you ever had a dream so vivid, so immersive, that for a moment, you were certain it was real? The people, the places, the emotions, they all felt just as solid as the world you woke up to. But then you did wake up, and everything you thought was real collapsed into nothing. Now imagine that this world, the one you call reality, is no different. Not because you're dreaming, not because you're inside a simulation, but because you and everything you know exist inside the mind of something far greater than yourself. A being whose thoughts are the laws of physics, whose imagination is the fabric of space and time. But here's the problem. That being is dying. Maybe it was once a god, vast and incomprehensible, dreaming endless realities into existence. Maybe it wove entire universes just as easily as you construct a fleeting daydream. But something went wrong. Something infected its mind. A sickness, a wound, something beyond even its own understanding. And now it is unraveling. And when it dies, so will everything. Look around. Have you noticed how reality sometimes glitches? Moments of déjà vu, strange coincidences, forgotten memories that feel just out of reach. Maybe you chalk it up to the mind playing tricks. But what if these are not mistakes in your perception, but fractures in its mind? Pieces of the dream collapsing as the god slips further into its final moments. Think about how dreams work. Have you ever had one where the world felt stable at first, only for it to start breaking apart the moment you realize something was wrong? Objects changing when you look away, people saying things that make no sense, entire places dissolving into static. Now tell me, how is that any different from this reality? Look at the randomness of quantum mechanics, the way particles seem to change just by being observed, as if reality only holds together when it's being noticed. Look at the vast, unknowable nature of black holes, devouring light and time like cosmic synapses misfiring in the brain of a dying god. Look at entropy, the law that everything, no matter how stable, is always breaking down. What if this isn't just the way things are? What if this is decay? The collapse of a mind that once held everything in perfect harmony. And you, what are you in all of this? Are you a real being, a separate consciousness, or just a stray thought in its fevered dream, playing out a role you were never meant to question? What happens to you when the dream finally ends? There's no escape. There's no waking up. When the god dies, it won't be like a dream fading. It will be like a fire being snuffed out. A sudden, jarring silence as everything ceases to be. No afterlife, no lingering echoes, just pure, absolute nothingness. And here's the most terrifying thought. If this god is dying, how many have died before it? How many times has existence flickered into being, only to collapse again? How many realities have been born, lived, and then dissolved into oblivion, with no one left to remember they were ever here? And worst of all, how many times has this happened? Maybe this isn't the first time you've existed. Maybe you and everyone you know have lived this same life, had these same thoughts, heard these same words, over and over, across countless dying minds, in countless failing dreams. Maybe that's why you sometimes feel like you've lived a moment before, because you have. Maybe that's why reality feels off, because this god is not just dying, but relapsing, slipping into the same fading nightmare, again and again, unable to let go, unable to die completely. Maybe that's why you're still here. Maybe you always will be. You're already dead and don't know it. What if I told you this isn't real? That everything you see, hear, and feel right now is nothing more than an echo, a flickering memory playing out long after the real you is gone. You don't believe me, of course. You feel alive. You can move your hands, take a deep breath, even feel the beat of your heart. But think about this. Do dreams ever feel like dreams while you're inside them? Or do they seem just as real as this moment does now? You assume you're alive because your mind tells you so. But what if your mind is wrong? What if you already died and just never noticed? Maybe it happened so fast you didn't have time to process it. A car crash, an aneurysm, a slip from somewhere high. Or maybe it was slow, so slow that your mind simply refused to acknowledge the transition. The days blending together, your memories growing hazy, reality feeling just a little more off than it used to. You've felt that sensation before, haven't you? The creeping sense that something isn't quite right. That time feels strange. That moments slip away faster than they should. Maybe you chalk it up to stress, fatigue, aging. But what if it's something else? What if you've been here ever since the moment you died? Maybe this world is just the final thoughts of a fading consciousness, stretched out to eternity. Maybe your brain, desperate to hold on to existence, is simulating a reality that no longer exists. Replaying old memories, reconstructing people, places, conversations, not because they're real, but because they're familiar. Because the alternative is waking up to nothing. And yet, cracks are forming, aren't they? You've noticed little things that don't make sense, objects not quite where you remember them, conversations you swear you've had before, a feeling of wrongness you can't quite explain, the past growing fuzzy, the future feeling uncertain, and worst of all, the growing suspicion that something is watching you. What if that feeling isn't paranoia? What if it's the truth trying to break through? Because eventually, your mind won't be able to hold this illusion together. The simulation will start to fail. The details will blur. The people around you will seem hollow. Maybe they already do. Maybe, deep down, you've started to suspect that the world isn't as real as it once was. And when that moment comes, when you realize, truly realize, that you're already dead, what happens then? Does everything collapse in an instant? Do you finally wake up, only to find that there's nothing left to wake up to? Or does it go on, forever? An endless loop of familiar moments, playing again and again, until you can't tell where one ends and the next begins. Maybe this is the afterlife, not fire, not paradise, just this, forever. A life that feels real, but never quite right. A world that drifts further from reality with each passing day, yet never lets you leave. A purgatory of your own making. And the worst part? You'll never know for sure. Because if you're already dead, and this world is just a dying thought, then there's no one left to tell you the truth. There never was. Your memories were planted by nothing. What's your earliest memory? Maybe it's a childhood birthday party, a moment of laughter with your parents, or the first time you felt truly afraid. It feels real, doesn't it? Vivid, undeniable, like a foundation upon which your entire life is built. But what if I told you? It never happened. What if none of it did? Not just your childhood, but everything. Every conversation, every experience, every person you think you've ever met. What if all of it was just planted? Not by some higher power, not by some cosmic architect. No, that would be too simple. What if your memories were placed inside you by nothing at all? Think about it. You can't remember being born. The past is just a series of mental snapshots. Fragile, blurry, easily manipulated. You don't question it because it feels real. But does feeling real mean something truly is real? How do you know yesterday even happened? Maybe it didn't. Maybe you began existing only a moment ago, with a fully constructed backlog of fake memories, giving you the illusion of continuity. Maybe your entire existence is just a static snapshot, a single moment suspended in time, with a detailed but completely fabricated history wrapped around it. And it gets worse. You assume memories are stored in your brain, but even scientists admit memory is unreliable. People misremember faces, places, entire events. False memories can be implanted so easily that you don't even need external manipulation. Your own brain does it to you without your consent. So what if every memory you have is false? Not altered, not distorted, but created out of nothing. There was never a yesterday. There was never a childhood. There was never a single event in your life that actually happened. Only the illusion of things having happened, like an intricate film set, designed to make you believe in a past that never existed. And what's worse, there's no one who did this to you. No scientist, no God, no trickster pulling the strings. Your memories were planted by nothing, because nothing is all there ever was. No past, no origin, no reality before this instant. Just a void that decided, arbitrarily, to fill itself with you. And what happens when the illusion fails? Maybe it already is. You felt it before. Those moments where you suddenly question reality for no reason. The eerie familiarity of déjà vu, like your mind is trying to reconcile two conflicting versions of the past. The sensation of losing time. The way entire days blur together like they were barely real to begin with. Maybe that's not just the way memory works. Maybe it's evidence that the past never was. And when you close your eyes tonight, how can you be sure tomorrow will come? If memories are planted fresh in every moment, then what's stopping reality from simply not existing the next time you wake up? What if you never wake up at all? What if this moment, the one you're in right now, is the only one that will ever exist? And when it ends, so does everything. Not just the future, but the past itself. Because if the past was never real to begin with, then when this present moment stops, there will be nothing left. Not even the memory of a world that was never there. And in that moment, you will realize there was never anything at all. Existence is a punishment. You woke up today without asking to. You opened your eyes, felt the weight of your body, heard the quiet hum of the world around you. Maybe you stretched, checked your phone, sighed at the thought of another day. But have you ever wondered why? Why were you born into this life? Why this body? This time? This endless cycle of struggle and disappointment? What if I told you it wasn't random? What if this, all of this, isn't a gift, but a sentence? A punishment for something you did, long before you had the mind to question it. You don't remember committing a crime. You don't recall making a mistake so severe that it warranted this. A lifetime of pain, fear, and loss. But that's the cruelest part of all. You weren't meant to remember. Think about it. Every creature on this planet is born into suffering, hunger, fear, sickness, death. It's all built into the experience of being alive. Animals are ripped apart by predators. Starving children take their first breaths, only to suffer for years before fading into nothing. Even the happiest life ends in decay. And yet, you believe this is normal. You assume suffering is just the way things are, that it has no deeper meaning. But if life were truly a gift, if existence were meant to be a blessing, then why does it hurt so much? You wouldn't design something this cruel by accident. What if you were meant to suffer? What if the universe isn't a random explosion of matter and time, but a carefully constructed prison, one you were placed into for reasons beyond your comprehension? Perhaps you lived another life before this one. A different world, a different existence. One where you made a decision so catastrophic, so unforgivable, that the only fitting punishment was to be stripped of everything you were, to be thrown into a body that withers, a mind that forgets, a life that feels like it belongs to someone else. But the punishment isn't just pain. It's the not knowing. The nagging feeling that something is wrong, but never being able to prove it. the exhaustion that seeps into your bones no matter how much you rest, the sense that you are serving time without ever being told what crime you committed. And the worst part, you're not alone. Look around. Every person you see, every stranger passing you by, is suffering in their own way. Some break under the weight of their existence. Others bury the feeling, pretend everything is fine, distract themselves with noise and routine. But deep down, they feel it too. And what if death isn't an escape? What if, instead of release, it's just the next phase of your sentence? You close your eyes, expecting peace, only to wake up again, in another body, in another world, with no memory of the one before. Because that's the nature of true punishment. It doesn't end, it loops, and no matter how many lives you live, no matter how many times you think you finally earned your release, you'll wake up again, and again, and again, until one day you finally understand why you were sent here in the first place. But by then, it will already be too late. Infinite copies of you are suffering. You feel safe, don't you? Right here, in this moment, in this body. You are you, singular and whole, the only version of yourself that exists. You might be struggling, but at least it's just this version of you, right? What if that wasn't true? What if, right now, there were infinite versions of you, and most of them were suffering in ways you couldn't even imagine? Somewhere out there, another you is gasping for air in a hospital bed. Another is trapped in a collapsing building. Another is screaming for help, buried alive. Another is alone, forgotten, abandoned. And here you are, blissfully unaware. The idea of the multiverse is simple. For every decision, for every possibility, another universe branches off. Another you comes into existence. But probability is not kind. If you take all the pain and horror of existence and spread it across infinite realities, the odds are not in your favor. Most versions of you are not living peaceful, happy lives. They are screaming, dying, wishing for it all to end. And that's not even the worst part. Somewhere, right now, there is a you experiencing suffering so incomprehensibly awful that, if you were to remember it, you would go insane on the spot. Think about the worst pain you've ever felt. A broken bone, a deep wound, a loss so heavy you could barely stand. Now multiply that pain by infinity. In some reality, a version of you has been trapped in an endless nightmare of agony. A reality where pain never stops, where death never comes, where hope is a myth. A prison universe designed only to torment you. And you will never hear their screams, but they are there, right now, living through suffering that should be impossible. Maybe you think, that's not me, that's just some version of me. But tell me, what makes this version of you so special? If infinite copies of you exist, why should this one be the lucky one? The truth is, you aren't. This reality you're in. It's just another branch, another possibility. You think you're safe, but infinite suffering means infinite chances for this life to turn into something worse. At any moment, you could become one of the other copies. One wrong step, one twist of fate, and you are the one suffocating, burning, falling, screaming. And when that happens, the version of you that is safe, sitting here, listening to this, will forget. They will think they are the lucky one, and so it continues, endlessly. You are not the main character. Every story needs a hero, someone special, someone whose struggles matter, whose choices shape the world, whose existence means something. And, naturally, you assume that's you. After all, from your perspective, life revolves around you. You wake up in your bed, go about your day, see the world through your eyes. Every thought, every moment, every experience is filtered through you. But here's a truth that should make your stomach drop. You are not the main character. You never were. Think about it. Right now, across the world, billions of people are living their own lives, starring in their own stories. They have their own tragedies, their own triumphs, their own struggles that they believe are just as important as yours. To them, you are just background noise, a fleeting extra in their personal movie, a name they might forget, a face they barely register. If you disappeared tomorrow, their world would not change. The story would go on. And that's just on Earth. Zoom out. You are one of 8 billion people on a tiny rock floating in a galaxy of 100 billion stars, in a universe with 2 trillion galaxies. That means, statistically, there are countless planets with creatures that will live and die without ever knowing you exist. How can you be the main character when the universe doesn't even acknowledge your presence? Try something unsettling. Imagine yourself as an NPC, one of those background characters in a video game, the kind that exists only to fill space, to make the world feel real for someone else. What if that's all you are? What if your entire life is just set dressing? What if your emotions, your thoughts, your struggles, everything you hold dear, are just insignificant details to make the world feel more immersive for someone else? The person in the grocery store who brushed past you without a second glance. You barely notice them. But what if, in the grand scheme of things, you are just as irrelevant to someone greater than you can comprehend? A background character pretending to be the protagonist. Now, maybe you tell yourself, I matter to my friends. My family cares about me. But how deep does that really go? People move on. They always do. The truth is, your absence would be a temporary disruption at best. A few tears, a few memories, a few weeks, months, or years of pain, and then nothing. The world continues. The universe doesn't flinch. You spend your entire life believing that you're on a journey that means something, that you're building towards some great resolution, some moment where it all makes sense. But there is no grand arc, no cinematic conclusion, no cosmic audience hanging on to your every word. You live, you die, and the story keeps going without you. The worst part, there is a main character. Someone out there, maybe not even on this planet, is the true protagonist. The world bends for them. The universe listens to them. Their story will be remembered, rewritten, immortalized. But not yours. Your legacy is dust. Your name will be forgotten within generations, washed away by time. Even the greatest figures in history eventually fade into irrelevance as the universe marches forward, uncaring and indifferent. The stars don't know your name. The galaxies don't revolve around your choices. The black holes swallowing entire solar systems don't pause for a second to acknowledge your thoughts, your fears, your desperate attempts to matter. You were just passing through, a footnote in someone else's epic. And one day, when your story fades completely, it will be as if you were never here at all. Just another nameless extra in the vast, indifferent void of existence. You're a simulation designed to fail. You've felt it before, haven't you? That subtle, nagging sensation that something about your life just doesn't add up. Like a puzzle piece that refuses to fit, no matter how hard you try to force it. Maybe it's the countless obstacles that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence. The setbacks that arrive just when you're about to succeed. The way life always finds a way to keep you struggling. At first, you dismiss it as bad luck, a string of misfortunes, a natural part of existence. But deep down, in the quiet corners of your mind, the doubt lingers. The feeling that something, someone, is working against you. A force you can't see, can't name, but feel in every moment of defeat. That's because it's true. You are not real. You are a simulation. And worse, you were designed to fail. Look around you. Your entire life is dictated by rules you never agreed to. You must eat, sleep, work, and obey laws that were written long before you existed. You are forced into a system where survival is not guaranteed, where suffering is the default state. You try to climb the ladder, only to find it extends infinitely upward, forever out of reach. The second you gain hope, life intervenes. Maybe it's an unexpected bill that wipes out your savings, a disease that drains you of time and energy, a relationship that falls apart just as you start to feel secure. No matter how hard you push forward, something pulls you back. It feels orchestrated, because it is. Your hardships aren't accidental. They're programmed. Someone, or something, designed this simulation not for you to win, but to believe you can win. To struggle endlessly toward a goal that was never meant to be reached. You are not here to succeed. You are here to try. Your pain is not a glitch. It's the point of the system. And if you think you've seen others break free, think again. Not everyone around you is real. Some are placeholders, empty figures designed to keep the illusion intact. You see them succeed effortlessly, and it convinces you that you can too. But you never do, because you weren't meant to. This isn't just about personal failure. It's bigger than that. This entire world is built on carefully controlled struggle. The rich get richer. The powerful remain untouchable. And no matter how much you resist, the system corrects itself. It ensures that you always land back where you started. A rat running in a maze with no exit. But what happens when the rat realizes the walls aren't real? If you were the one running this simulation, what would you do with a program that started asking too many questions? You'd delete it, wipe it clean, reset the system before it could spread its awareness to others. The moment you start questioning, the system takes notice. And if you dig too deep, you disappear. Maybe that's why people suddenly vanish, their stories ending without explanation. Maybe that's why déjà vu exists, glitches in the reset process. Maybe that's why you feel like you've had this exact thought before. And here's the most terrifying part. What if this realization is the final stage of your programming? What if figuring it out is just another layer of the trap? Maybe the system allows you to question it because it knows you'll never escape. Maybe the moment you grasp the truth, it resets you, sending you back to the beginning, stripped of this knowledge, forced to start over in the same cycle, repeating endlessly. And maybe this isn't the first time you've realized it. Maybe it's already happened, and maybe it's about to happen again. Nothingness has a face, and it's yours. Have you ever stared into a mirror for too long? At first, it's just you, familiar, ordinary. But the longer you look, the stranger it becomes. The features you've always known, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, begin to feel foreign, like they don't belong to you at all. Your reflection becomes unsettling, hollow, almost artificial. And then, for just a fleeting moment, a terrifying thought slips into your mind. What if that isn't you? What if the thing staring back isn't a reflection at all, but something else entirely? You blink, shake off the feeling, and walk away. But the thought lingers. The realization that you are nothing more than a pattern of flesh, thoughts, and memories, all strung together into something that only resembles a person. But under the right conditions, just the right amount of silence, stillness, and time, that illusion starts to crack. And when it does, what stares back at you is something empty. You. Nothingness has a face, and somehow, inexplicably, it's yours. The unsettling truth is that identity is nothing but a fragile construct, a thin mask stretched over the void. Your name, your memories, your personality, none of it is real in any absolute sense. It's just a collection of experiences, shuffled together by time, shaped by things beyond your control. You've spent your entire life convinced that you are someone. But are you? Think about it. You were born into this world without a choice, without a self. You were handed a name, a language, a set of expectations, all of which molded you into who you think you are. But peel it all away, strip yourself of your past, your relationships, your identity, and what remains? Nothing. And yet somehow that nothingness wears a face. a face you call your own. The more you try to define yourself, the more you realize there's nothing solid beneath the surface. Your thoughts are not truly your own. Your emotions are just reactions, triggered by forces you barely understand. The idea of you is as flimsy as a shadow, a temporary flicker in the vast, indifferent void of existence. But here's the real horror. If you are nothing, then everyone else is too. Every person you've ever loved, every friend, every stranger you've walked past on the street, they are just as empty, just as constructed, just as unreal. The world you see, the people you know, the relationships you cling to, they are all masks over the same void. But what's worse is that the nothingness isn't passive. It isn't still. It watches. Because nothingness is not simply the absence of something. It is awareness of that absence. A void that knows itself. And now, so do you. So here's a thought. What if, at the core of existence, there is nothing but an endless, self-aware emptiness? A void that gave itself a face, a voice, a life, just so it wouldn't have to confront its own nothingness. You are that face. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever been, was just the void trying to forget itself. But you can't outrun the truth. The moment you stop distracting yourself, the moment you allow yourself to be still, it all comes rushing back. The truth that there was never a you to begin with, only the illusion of one. And now that you've seen it, now that you know, you can never unsee it. Because nothingness has a face, and it's staring right back at you. Most of your life is already forgotten. Think back to yesterday. What did you do? Who did you talk to? What thoughts ran through your mind? You might remember a few details, a conversation, a meal, a fleeting moment of frustration or joy. But what about the rest? The thousands of seconds that passed, unnoticed, slipping into the abyss of time. Now go further back. Last week, last month, last year. You have lived through thousands of days, millions of moments, and yet, most of them are gone. Not just buried, not just difficult to recall, completely erased. You have already forgotten most of your life. Try to remember a random Tuesday from 5 years ago. Try to reconstruct the sights, the sounds, the feelings. You can't. That day was as real as this one, yet it has vanished as if it never happened. And the worst part, you didn't even notice it disappearing. Your mind is not a perfect archive. It does not faithfully preserve your existence. It filters, distorts, and discards. You think you remember your past, but most of it is gone. Entire years of your childhood, the emotions of past conversations, the faces of people you once loved, all of it has been swallowed by time. It gets worse. Not only is your past slipping away, but so is your present. The moment you finish this sentence, it will be gone. A second ago, you were here, reading, thinking, but that version of you has already faded. Right now, memories are forming, and right now, they are disappearing. And what does that mean for you? Who are you, really, if your past is an incomplete story? If your identity is built on a foundation of half-remembered dreams and missing pieces? If most of your life, the real, lived moments of it, is no different from something that never existed at all? If the past is gone, and the present is always slipping away, then what are you but a flickering light in an endless void? But let's go deeper. Memories define who you are, but memories can be wrong. Studies show that people misremember details all the time. You may be confident in recalling an event, but there's a good chance you've twisted it without realizing it. That childhood story you always tell, it may not have happened the way you think. That moment that shaped you, it might not have even happened at all. This means that not only is most of your life forgotten, what little you do remember is unreliable. The past you think you had might be nothing more than a fiction written by your own brain. And if your memories are wrong, if they are warped and incomplete, then who exactly are you? What if you are nothing more than a collection of mistakes, a self that never truly was? One day, you will take your last breath. The people around you will cry, they will mourn, but they too will forget. Slowly, the memories of you will fade. Your name will be spoken less and less. And then, one day, it will not be spoken at all. No one will know you ever existed. No one will remember your voice, your thoughts, your face. Just like most of your life already has been forgotten. And if everything you were, everything you are, can simply be erased, as if it never happened, then did it ever really happen at all? One day, someone will think of you for the last time. There will come a moment, silent, unnoticed, when your name is spoken for the last time, when the final memory of you flickers in someone's mind, and then vanishes forever. Think of everyone you've ever known, your family, your friends, the strangers you've passed on the street. To them, you exist. You are a thought, a memory, a presence in their minds. But what happens when they are gone? What happens when the last person who remembers you takes their final breath? Imagine an old photograph, dusty and curled at the edges. It sits in a box, buried in an attic. Your face is there, smiling, frozen in time. But no one knows your name. No one knows the life you lived, the love you felt, the pain you endured. You are a ghost without a story. And then one day, that photograph crumbles. It's happening all the time. Right now, there are names being spoken for the last time, faces being recalled before they slip into nothingness. People who once laughed, cried and dreamed, erased, as if they never existed. It will happen to you too. You might think, but I have family, I have friends, people love me. And that's true, but time doesn't care. Generations pass and memories fade. Your great-grandchildren's children will never know you. To them, you will be just another forgotten soul, one of billions swallowed by time. Even the most famous figures in history, those whose names fill textbooks, are slowly being erased. A few thousand years from now, their legacies will be dust. And if even the greats are doomed to oblivion, what chance do you have? You might leave behind words, photos, a digital footprint, but one day the servers will fail, the books will decay, the hard drives will be lost, and then gone. But let's make this more personal. Think of someone you used to know, a classmate from elementary school, a co-worker from an old job, a friend you lost touch with. Right now, you might struggle to remember their face. Maybe their name is slipping away just beyond reach. One day, someone will struggle to remember you. At first, they'll recall you easily. They'll tell stories about you, share old memories. But as the years pass, those stories will be told less and less. And then, one day, someone will hesitate. They'll try to bring your name to mind, but it won't come. The details of your life will blur, until eventually, nothing. The last person to remember you will forget. And that will be it. The moment you truly, permanently cease to exist. This is the fate that awaits all of us. No matter how much we love, no matter how deeply we impact others, there is an ending beyond death. An ending where we are not just gone, but forgotten. And if no one remembers you, if there is no trace of your existence left in the minds of the living, did you ever really exist at all? You have no control over your thoughts. Think of a number, any number, got it. Good. Now ask yourself, why that number? Why not another? You might say, I chose it. But did you? Really? Did you reach into some internal control panel and select it? Or did it simply appear in your mind, uninvited? Try again. Think of any random word. Maybe it's ocean, or glass, or hunger. Whatever it is, did you decide to think of it? Or did it just surface like a bubble rising from the depths? Here's the unsettling truth. You don't control your thoughts. They happen to you. They emerge from nowhere, unfiltered, unrequested, unstoppable. You might argue, but I can choose what I think about. Can you? Try to stop thinking entirely. For just 10 seconds, clear your mind. No words, no images, no noise. You failed. Something slipped in. A sound in the background. A stray memory. The thought, don't think of anything, which is still a thought. Even when you try to silence your mind, it keeps going, whispering, intruding, filling the void against your will. Now, let's go deeper. Think of a painful memory, one that still lingers. Maybe it's something embarrassing, something tragic, something you wish you could erase. You don't want to think about it, but here it is. It appeared the moment I mentioned it. And if I told you to forget it right now, you couldn't. That's the cruelty of your own mind. It dredges up thoughts you never asked for. It replays old wounds, injects fears, constructs scenarios that never happened but feel real. It torments you, makes you anxious, keeps you awake at night, and you have no way to stop it. Try to predict your next thought. Try to decide right now what you're going to think next. You can't. It will come when it wants, in whatever form it chooses. Your brain is not your servant. It is a machine running on autopilot, producing a constant, uncontrollable stream of ideas, images, and emotions. You don't create your thoughts. You witness them. And sometimes they are terrifying. A violent impulse, a sickening idea, a disturbing image flashing through your mind, making you question yourself. You didn't ask for it. You don't want it. But it's there. And the more you try to push it away, the stronger it clings to you. If you were truly in control of your thoughts, you could delete them, erase the painful ones, suppress the unwanted ones, think only of what brings you peace. But you can't. Your mind is an unrelenting storm, and you are merely caught in it. And if you are not the one controlling your own thoughts, who is? What force is feeding these ideas into your consciousness? Are you just an observer in your own head, a helpless passenger in a body that runs on instincts and illusions? You assume you are you, that you direct your mind, that you steer the ship. But if you are not the one creating your thoughts, then what exactly are you? Just a flicker, a ripple, a phantom made of memories, sensations, and voices that are not your own. A story told inside a skull. You never had control. You never will. Your mind thinks you into existence. And one day, when the thoughts stop, so will you. When you are thinking, you are actually listening. Close your eyes. In the silence of your mind, a voice is speaking. A constant inner narration. It sounds like you, doesn't it? It feels like your own mind, your own thoughts forming in real time. But what if I told you that you are not thinking those thoughts? You are hearing them. They arrive, uninvited. They echo without permission, a whisper in your head, as if someone, something, is speaking to you from the inside. Don't believe it. Try to catch the next thought before it happens. Try to will your brain into silence. You can't. The words appear before you even realize it. Thoughts do not ask for your approval. They simply arrive, fully formed. So who or what is speaking? Think about when you listen to music. The melody unfolds, note by note, and you do not control it. You simply receive it. Now consider your thoughts the same way. Words emerge, shaping ideas, directing emotions. And like a song, they are not yours. You are simply the one hearing them. Have you ever noticed that your thoughts have a voice? Maybe it's your own, echoing as if you were reading silently. Maybe it's the voice of someone else, a parent, a teacher, a friend from long ago. Sometimes it doesn't even sound familiar. It just speaks. If you were truly thinking, you would create each thought consciously, choosing the words like a sculptor shaping clay. But you don't. Instead, you listen as ideas form out of the void. A phrase appears, a memory surfaces, an intrusive thought you didn't summon sneaks in. And the more you try to stop it, the louder it gets. It happens when you're trying to sleep. The voice won't quiet. It replays conversations, regrets, fears. It conjures imaginary arguments, fills in the silence with an endless flood of chatter. You don't think it into being. You hear it. But from where? What if your thoughts aren't you at all? What if consciousness is not a command center, but a radio, tuned to a frequency that never stops broadcasting? You are not generating the signal. You are receiving it. And if you are merely listening, then who is speaking? Some call it the subconscious. Others call it the collective mind, the whispers of memory, culture, and past experience shaping your internal monologue. But what if it is something else entirely? Something external, something watching you, studying you, feeding thoughts into your mind just to see what you'll do with them? What if the voice inside your head is not you, but an experiment? A script being read aloud by an entity you cannot perceive? And what if one day it stops? Imagine waking up and finding your mind empty. No words, no voice, just a vast, silent void. How long before you realize what has happened? A minute? An hour? Would you even know who you were without the voice constantly reminding you? Maybe you were never the one in control. Maybe your life was never truly yours. Maybe you are just the listener, and something else has been narrating your existence this whole time. And maybe, right now, it is listening back, waiting, wondering if you're starting to hear the truth. You are the story that you tell to yourself. Who are you? Not your name, not your job, not the face in the mirror. Who are you? Whatever answer comes to mind. It's a story, a carefully crafted narrative you've pieced together. A collection of memories, beliefs, and self-perceptions. You are not a fixed entity. You are a story, a fragile, ever-changing fiction that only exists because you tell yourself it's true. Think about it. The person you believe yourself to be, the one with dreams, regrets, habits, fears. That version of you is just the sum of the stories you've repeated in your head 1,000 times. The things you've done. The things you think you've done, the things you wish you had done. They form the foundation of your identity, even if they are distorted, incomplete, or outright false. Memories? Unreliable. They change every time you recall them, shifting, morphing, adapting to the version of yourself you need to believe in. You rewrite your own history constantly, smoothing out contradictions, erasing things that don't fit, fabricating details that make the story more coherent. Because the truth is, you are not a person in any absolute sense. You are an idea wrapped in flesh, a fragile narrative trapped inside a biological machine. A story so deeply ingrained that you mistake it for something permanent, something real. And what happens if the story falls apart? Imagine waking up tomorrow with no memory. No past, no history, just a body, a voice, an awareness of being alive, but nothing else. Who would you be? Without your self-narrative, would you even exist in any meaningful way? You wouldn't know what you like or hate, what you fear, what you believe in. You wouldn't know if you were kind or cruel, wise or foolish. The sense of you would be gone because you were never real. The story was real. And if you built a new story, would you still be the same person? If you suddenly believed you had a different childhood, a different name, a different set of experiences, would you still be you? Or would you simply become someone else, just as easily as changing the plot of a book? Maybe that's all consciousness ever was, a character reading its own script, convinced it was more than just words. And here's the terrifying part. You are still rewriting the story right now. Every thought you have reshapes the story, even in small ways. Every moment of doubt, every new experience, every external influence edits the pages. Some changes are subtle, others are drastic, rewriting entire sections without you even noticing. You tell yourself who you are, what you're worth, what your purpose is. You reinforce your flaws, your strengths, your limitations. You cling to certain narratives, because without them, you fear the collapse of your entire self. But what if you were wrong? What if the story you've built about yourself is a lie? What if you're not the person you think you are? What if your identity is nothing more than a desperate attempt to make sense of something fundamentally empty? After all, every story needs a protagonist. But what if there isn't one? What if the narrator, the voice inside your head, the voice shaping your reality, isn't really you? What if it's just a series of thoughts, arising and vanishing, forming a story where no true author exists? If that's the case, then what happens when the story ends? What happens when you stop telling yourself who you are? What happens when the narrator falls silent? Who is left? Or maybe the better question is, was there ever anyone there at all? Your sense of time is an illusion. Time warps as the seconds stretch and compress. You think you're moving forward, but what if you're not? Have you ever woken up and felt like time had collapsed? Like the dreams you just had were years long, yet the clock only ticked forward by minutes? Or maybe you've blinked and an entire month slipped through your fingers. How did that happen? You live your life assuming time moves like an arrow. Steady, predictable, linear. But that's just a trick your mind plays on you. Right now, you believe the past is behind you, the future is ahead, and the present is this thin, fleeting moment in between. But that fragile sensation of now, is an illusion your brain fabricates to make sense of something it was never built to comprehend. Think about it. Does the past still exist? Can you touch it? Can you go there? Number, it exists only in your memories, and memories are unreliable at best, distorted, incomplete, rewritten every time you recall them. And what about the future? You think it hasn't happened yet, but how do you know? You've never experienced the future. You only experience a constant unfolding of now. For all you know, the future is already written, already fixed, already happening in a way your limited perception simply can't grasp. Because in reality, time is not a flowing river, it is a frozen block. Every moment, every second, every thought, every breath exists all at once. You are not moving through time, you are stuck in a single frame, endlessly reliving the illusion of movement. Picture a film reel. Each frame is separate, still, unmoving. But when played in sequence, it creates the appearance of motion. That's your life. Every moment of your existence, past and future, already exists, just like the frames of a movie. But your mind, incapable of grasping the full picture, tricks you into believing you are moving through it. And here's where it gets worse. If all of time is already there, if past, present, and future coexist, then nothing you do can change anything. You are not choosing to act, to think, to decide. You are merely observing yourself doing what you were always going to do. Every thought you've ever had was predetermined. Every action was inevitable. And if you think you can break free, if you think you can change something, ask yourself this: how would you know? If you were trapped in a loop, repeating the same moments forever, how would you realize it? The moment you're experiencing right now may have already played out an infinite number of times before. You could be stuck here reading these words over and over and over with no way to remember. What if you've already lived your entire life? What if you've died, been reborn, and repeated this exact sequence of events countless times? The same joys, the same mistakes, the same regrets, over and over. A story written in stone, convincing itself it is still being told. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you feel déjà vu, because you have been here before. The terrifying truth is that time doesn't pass. You do. And if time is an illusion, what does that make you? Time is eating itself. You think time moves forward. You think the past is behind you, lost forever. But what if time doesn't work that way? What if, right now, time is consuming itself, devouring the past, erasing the future, and leaving you stranded in the jaws of something you can't even comprehend? There's a clock on your wall. The second hand moves, tick by tick, steady, relentless. It gives you comfort. It tells you time is progressing, that moments are stacking neatly behind you, forming the story of your life. But have you ever stopped to wonder, where does the past go? Right now, you can remember yesterday. You can remember last year. But can you touch those moments? Can you reach through time and pull them back? Number. Because the past does not exist, and neither does the future. All that exists is now. This single, flickering moment, and it is already vanishing. Time is not a straight road. It is not a sequence of moments unfolding endlessly ahead of you. Time is something far more horrifying. It is something that devours. Every second you have ever lived is gone, not behind you like footprints in the sand, but obliterated, consumed by the very thing that created it. Time does not pass. It feeds, and you are trapped inside its stomach. Think about it. You assume the past is something that happened, that it's just sitting there in some unreachable vault. But what if the past isn't merely gone? What if it has been eaten? What if time only survives by cannibalizing itself, destroying the very moments it creates? That means every experience you've ever had, every joy, every loss, every thought, has already been swallowed whole. And worse, it means that every future moment will suffer the same fate. You are constantly moving forward, believing there's something waiting for you. But all that's ahead is an open maw, a great nothingness that will erase everything you are, just as it erased everything you were. Right now, this moment, you, listening, thinking, existing, is already in the process of being eaten. But here's the real horror. If time is consuming itself, if every moment is devoured the instant it happens, then how do you even know you exist? You believe your life has been continuous, that you are the same person you were yesterday, but that's just a story your mind tells you. Because if time is constantly erasing itself, then every version of you that has ever existed is gone. So what makes you think you are real now? What makes you think this moment won't vanish before you even finish this sentence? Maybe it already has. Maybe you were never here to begin with. Maybe time already consumed you, and you are just the echo of something that was devoured long ago. You think you're moving forward. But what if, instead, you are being swallowed, piece by piece, second by second, until there is nothing left? And when time has eaten itself completely, there will be no evidence it ever existed at all. The fine-tuning of the universe. Picture waking up in a world where gravity is slightly weaker. Not enough to notice right away, but just enough that stars never formed. The sky is pitch black, empty, silent. No galaxies, no planets, no life. Now imagine another universe, where gravity is just a little too strong. Everything collapses into black holes before anything can exist. No matter where you turn, the universe is a dead void, or worse, a crushing abyss. And yet, here you are. Why? The universe is balanced on a knife's edge. There are certain numbers, fundamental constants, baked into reality. The strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, the force holding atoms together. These values don't have to be what they are. In fact, they could have been anything. But they aren't random. They are precise. So precise that even the slightest change, one part in a million, a billion, a trillion, would erase everything. No stars, no planets, no you. Think about that. You are here because the numbers were perfect. Not close, not good enough. Perfect. So perfect that the odds of a universe like this forming by chance are so small they might as well be zero. And yet, it happened. So how? There are only a few possibilities. 1. It's all a coincidence. But that's absurd, isn't it? If you rolled a trillion-sided die and it landed on exactly the right number to create life, would you believe it was random? Or would you start to wonder? 2. There was a designer, a consciousness that set the values just right, fine-tuning the universe like a musician tuning an instrument, a god, a force, something beyond us. But then you have to ask, who or what fine-tuned them? And if we were designed, why were we made in a universe so cold, so vast, so hostile? 3. There are infinite universes. If enough realities exist, then maybe, just maybe, one of them had to get lucky. Maybe this is that universe. Maybe there are others, countless dead, empty realities where the dice landed differently, where the laws of physics twisted into something unlivable. Maybe most universes are silent graves. But then you realize something chilling. If the multiverse is real, then almost all conscious beings wouldn't exist in stable, predictable realities like ours. They would exist in the rare universes on the edge of destruction, where chaos is always moments away. Universes where they barely survive, where physics is just stable enough to allow thought, but not stable enough to be safe. So why don't we see that? Why does our universe seem stable? Maybe it only seems that way because we haven't lived long enough to see it unravel. Maybe the fine-tuning isn't fine-tuning at all. Maybe the universe isn't balanced, and we just exist in the brief moment before everything collapses. A cosmic accident, waiting to correct itself. And when it does, you will realize just how rare this moment of life was, right before it's gone. Eternal recurrence. You wake up. The sun filters through the curtains just as it always has. You feel the same weight in your limbs, the same grogginess in your mind. You check your phone, the date, the messages, the notifications, identical. You get up, brush your teeth, eat the same breakfast and go about your day. It feels normal, but something gnaws at the edges of your awareness, like an itch you can't scratch. A sense of déjà vu that won't fade. And then it hits you. You've done all of this before, not just yesterday, not just last week, forever. Everything you have ever done, are doing, and will do has already happened. An infinite number of times. Every mistake, every triumph, every regret, every moment of happiness and suffering. You've already lived it all over and over and over again, and you will continue to. This is the idea of eternal recurrence, the nightmare that time is not a straight line, not a cycle that ever truly evolves, but a loop that never ends. It's easy to imagine time as something that stretches infinitely forward, a vast horizon of possibility. But what if it isn't? What if the universe is not expanding into endless newness, but rather spiraling back onto itself like a snake devouring its own tail? What if at the end of time, there is only the beginning again? You might think, so what? If I don't remember my past lives, does it even matter? Oh, but that's where the horror lies. Because the version of you sitting here right now watching this version will experience this exact moment again, and again, and again. Every time you cry yourself to sleep, every time you laugh until your stomach hurts, every time you watch someone you love slip away, you will relive it all, down to the last detail. The same thoughts, the same actions, the same pain. You are not progressing towards something new. You are simply cycling through the same existence on an infinite track. And no matter what you do, no matter what choices you make, it will happen again. The universe doesn't care if you hate your life. It doesn't care if you wish things were different. Because because they never will be. Nietzsche once proposed this idea not as horror, but as a challenge. If you had to live your life endlessly on repeat, would you change the way you live? Would you make different choices? Or would you descend into despair, knowing that every failure, every humiliation, every loss will happen again, no matter how hard you try to change it? But that's the real trick, isn't it? There is no changing it. No choice that wasn't already made. No path you haven't already walked 1,000,000,000,000 times before. And here's the worst part. If this is true, you are trapped. You've been here before, and you will be here again. Maybe that flicker of recognition you feel right now, that tiny whisper of, "I swear I felt this exact moment before," isn't just déjà vu. Maybe it's your mind screaming from the depths of eternity, warning you that you are caught in an endless wheel of time, and you will never escape. Solipsism. There is only one consciousness in existence, yours. Everything else, every person you've ever met, every place you've ever been, every single moment you've experienced, might not be real. It might all be an illusion, a fabrication created just for you. Think about it. You have never experienced anyone else's thoughts. You have never felt what it's like to be someone else, never truly known if their minds are like yours. All you have is their words, their actions, their expressions, but those could just be reflections, scripts in a play where you are the only true actor. Right now, you are listening to this, but how do you know that I exist? My voice is just a sound in your head. These words are just appearing before you, forming thoughts in your mind. But what if that's all they are? Thoughts. Projections of a consciousness that is utterly terrifyingly alone. This is solipsism. The idea that nothing outside of your own mind can be proven to exist. At first, it might seem like an abstract concept, an amusing philosophical game. But the deeper you go, the more disturbing it becomes. Because it means that everyone you have ever loved, everyone who has ever mattered to you, may be nothing more than echoes, phantoms conjured up by your own solitary awareness. Your parents, just part of the script. Your best friend, a character designed to keep you company. That stranger who walked past you on the street today. A temporary construct, flickering in and out of existence the moment you stop perceiving them. How can you prove otherwise? You can't. Science tells you the universe is vast, full of galaxies, planets, and countless other minds. But have you ever been to those galaxies? Have you ever seen those other minds from the inside? All you have is information. Information given to you by a world that may not even be real. What if, at the core of everything, there is no universe, no society, no history, no world beyond what your mind perceives? What if every interaction you've ever had was just you, talking to yourself in different voices? But here's where it gets worse. If nothing exists but you, then what are you? What is your mind? If the universe is a lie, then what created the lie? Why was it created? And why, of all things, are you the one trapped inside it? You might wonder, if I were truly alone, wouldn't I feel lonely? Wouldn't I sense the emptiness? But think about dreams. When you dream, the people inside your dream feel real. You don't question their existence while you're inside the dream. You don't stop to think, these people are just figments of my imagination. You just live it until you wake up. But what if you never wake up? What if this is the dream? What if you are wandering through a reality that is nothing more than an elaborate hallucination, designed to keep you from realizing the truth, that you are the only being that has ever existed and ever will? And if that's the case, then here's the question that should terrify you the most. Who created this illusion for you, and why? Perhaps it was an accident. Perhaps you are the broken remains of something greater, trapped in an endless hallucination to shield yourself from a horror beyond comprehension. Or perhaps there was never anything else. There was never a world, never other people, never a vast and beautiful universe. There was only you. Always has been. always will be. And you will never, ever know why. Your soul is a black hole's echo. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of existence, staring into an abyss so vast, so all-consuming, that it doesn't just swallow light, it swallows meaning itself. A black hole. A place where reality stretches, where time fractures, where even the concept of self dissolves. Now, what if you were never standing outside of it? What if you were never separate from it at all? What if this, your thoughts, your memories, the feeling of being you, is nothing more than an echo of something that was pulled into darkness long ago? A black hole doesn't just consume, it erases. Anything that falls inside is shredded to its fundamental essence, its information smeared across the event horizon, lost to the physical world. But lost doesn't mean gone. Information, according to physics, can never be destroyed. It lingers, distorted, warped beyond recognition, but still there, imprinted on the universe in ways that defy understanding. And so, what if your soul, your consciousness, your awareness, isn't where you think it is? What if you are not inside your body? What if your thoughts, your emotions, your entire sense of self are just the residue of something that no longer exists in any real way? A voice calling out from the void, a whisper from beyond the event horizon. Not alive, not dead, just echoing. Right now, you believe you exist. You feel solid, tangible. You have memories, thoughts, dreams. But what if that's only because the echo hasn't faded yet? Think of a scream in an empty canyon. The sound bounces, growing fainter with each passing second. The person who screamed is already gone, but their voice still lingers, hanging in the air as if it has a life of its own. That could be you. Not a soul in a body, but the lingering afterimage of something that was pulled into oblivion. A fragment of awareness trapped between dimensions, repeating its own experience, unaware that the real you was erased the moment you crossed that invisible line. Maybe that's why life feels so fleeting. Why memories slip away like sand through fingers. Why time never moves quite how you expect. Because you are already gone. And all that remains is the ghost of a consciousness that refuses to accept its own absence. One day echoes fade. No sound lasts forever. No ripple in space goes on indefinitely. One day, whatever is left of you, this voice, this moment, this fleeting illusion of self, will finally dissolve. And when it does, there will be nothing left, not even the memory that you were ever here at all. The absurd. You wake up. The alarm screams at you. You roll out of bed, brush your teeth, put on the same clothes, eat the same food, go to the same job. 1,000 identical days stacked on top of each other, pretending to be different. And you tell yourself it all means something. But does it? Does anything? That's the question clawing at the back of your mind. The quiet, nagging thought you drown out with music, with scrolling, with empty conversations. But deep down, you know, the universe isn't listening. It never was. We spend our lives chasing purpose. We build religions, write philosophies, tell ourselves stories about fate and destiny, all to convince ourselves that there's some grand reason for why we're here, that our suffering leads somewhere, that our struggles aren't in vain. But reality doesn't care about your reasons. The universe is indifferent, cold, silent. It offers no answers, no guiding hand, no secret purpose waiting to be discovered. It just is. And that's the absurd. The human mind craves meaning. The universe refuses to give it. And so we are left stuck, searching for answers that don't exist, asking questions that will never be answered. The Greek myth of Sisyphus is the perfect metaphor for life itself. A man condemned to roll a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down, over and over, for eternity. No escape, no progress, just an endless, pointless cycle. Now look at your own life. You work, you eat, You sleep, you struggle, you push forward. And for what? So you can do it all again tomorrow. So you can grow old and watch it all slip away. So you can reach some final destination, only to realize there was never one to begin with. The struggle is the destination. The effort is the reward. And it means nothing. Every dream you chase, every goal you set, every justification you give yourself is just another distraction. You are an actor reading from a script with no author, a puppet with no strings. Every achievement, every failure, every love, every loss, none of it holds any real weight outside of the story you tell yourself. And the most terrifying part? The story doesn't even matter, because one day you'll die. And after that, your memories, your legacy, your name, gone. The world moves on without you, and the vast, uncaring universe continues, as if you never existed at all. But here's the real nightmare. Even if you could find meaning, even if you could convince yourself that it all matters, it wouldn't change anything. You'd still be trapped in a world that doesn't care, trapped in a body you didn't choose, trapped in a life that was handed to you, forced upon you without permission. You are here, but you never asked to be. You are alive, but you never chose to exist. And the absurdity of it all is that even though you never agreed to play this game, you still have to keep playing. So what do? How do you live knowing nothing matters? Some say you should embrace it, that you should laugh in the face of the absurd, that you should create your own meaning, even if it's all a lie. But deep down, you'll always know the truth. No matter how much you try to drown it out, no matter how much noise you surround yourself with, the silence of the universe is always there, waiting. And perhaps that's the most absurd thing of all. Moral luck. You think you're a good person. You follow the rules, you help when you can, and you try to do the right thing. But what if your morality isn't yours at all? What if the difference between being a hero and a monster comes down to something as meaningless as timing, chance, or a twist of fate? Imagine two drivers on a dark road. Both have had a drink or two, both are slightly over the legal limit, and both are making the same mistake, getting behind the wheel when they shouldn't. The first driver makes it home safely. The second hits a pedestrian and kills them instantly. The first person wakes up the next morning, goes about their life, and forgets the risk they took. The second spends the rest of their existence consumed by guilt, labeled a criminal, their name forever tied to a single terrible moment. But were they really different? Or did luck decide who got to be innocent? This is the nightmare of moral luck. The idea that the morality of our actions, the difference between blame and praise, isn't fully under our control. You want to believe that justice is fair, that consequences reflect intention. But the world doesn't work that way. Every moment, you are at the mercy of chance, and your entire life could be rewritten by an accident, an oversight, or a split-second event that you never saw coming. Think about history. We admire leaders who led their nations to victory, but had the dice landed differently, those same leaders would be remembered as reckless failures. We call some people geniuses simply because their discoveries worked. But how many brilliant minds faded into obscurity just because the right circumstances never lined up? Even your personal morality is shaped by things you didn't choose. Where you were born, how you were raised, the people you met along the way. You might think you're a good person, but if you had lived a different life, under different circumstances, would you still be? Or would you have been someone you'd hate? Take another example. Two soldiers in battle. Both fire their weapons. One bullet misses its target. The other strikes a young child hiding behind the rubble. The first soldier is relieved. He believes he did the right thing, fought honorably. The second is haunted forever. But what's the real difference? A gust of wind, a fraction of a second, the angle of the shot. What if the guilt, The moral weight of their choices had nothing to do with their intentions, only with whether chance allowed them to see themselves as good or evil. The terrifying truth is that you are constantly walking a tightrope over an abyss of possibilities. A slight nudge in the wrong direction, a single unlucky moment, and you could become a villain in your own story. It's easy to look at criminals and think, I would never do that. But is that really true? Or did the world simply spare you from the test? Even the law itself is based on the illusion that we control our fate. We punish the drunk driver who kills, but we ignore the thousands who drove home safely under the same conditions. We celebrate those who succeed, calling them hardworking, brilliant, and deserving, while ignoring those who worked just as hard, but were crushed by forces beyond their control. The world isn't fair, and worse, morality isn't either. You like to believe you've earned your goodness, that you're good because of the choices you made, not because the universe happened to spare you from disaster. But have you ever been in the wrong place at the wrong time? Have you ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault? If you have, then you know the truth. Morality is just as fragile as luck itself. You are not who you think you are. You are who luck has allowed you to be. And the scariest part? You will never know how many times you've been 1 second, one choice, one coincidence away from becoming someone unrecognizable. The only thing keeping you alive is luck. You're crossing the street, minding your own business. A car barrels toward you, but the driver glances at their phone at the last second, just enough for them to miss the light and slam their brakes in time. You never even noticed. You step onto the sidewalk, oblivious, carrying on with your day. It could have ended right there. A 2-second delay, a distracted driver, a gust of wind pushing you forward. Any of it could have been enough, but it wasn't. Not this time. This is the terrifying reality of your existence. The only thing keeping you alive is luck. You like to believe you're in control. You plan, you prepare, you think ahead. But none of that matters when a random blood clot forms in your brain, when a tiny mutation in your cells begins to spiral into something unstoppable, when a plane crashes through your bedroom ceiling in the middle of the night. Every second of your life is a gamble, and you don't even realize you're playing. Survival feels like something you've earned, through intelligence, caution, effort. But think about all the people who were smarter, safer, healthier than you. And still, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. A child who never took a single risk, a scientist who made all the right choices, an athlete in peak condition. It didn't matter. It never does. You tell yourself that if you just avoid danger, you'll be fine. But luck doesn't care. You could be walking through your home, the safest place you know, when an aneurysm bursts in your skull, erasing your thoughts mid-sentence. You could take the same route you always do, only to find yourself next to someone who coughs at the wrong time, infecting you with something that shouldn't be deadly, but somehow for you is. And then there are the unseen moments, the dangers you were never aware of, the accidents that almost happened but didn't. Maybe someone once held a knife too tightly near you, and if their hand had twitched just a little more, you wouldn't be here. Maybe you once stood near a building, and if a brick had loosened a second earlier, you never would have had another thought. You will never know how many times luck saved you. But luck runs out. Every second you remain alive, you are rolling the dice, over and over again. Every heartbeat is another spin of the wheel. There are people who woke up this morning with no idea that today was their last. Someone out there is breathing their final breath as you listen to this. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they deserved it, just because the numbers weren't in their favor this time. So what makes you think you're any different? You have lived this long not because of your choices, not because of some grand plan, but because the chaotic, indifferent universe has simply not picked you yet. That's all. Not yet. And that's the most unsettling part, because you can't prepare for luck. You can't predict when your last ordinary moment will turn into the end. You could try to be cautious, never take risks. But that won't stop the infinite number of random, uncontrollable factors that have the power to snatch you away in an instant. Your entire existence is a cosmic accident that keeps being extended by sheer chance. And if that doesn't scare you, it should, because one day your luck will break, the dice will land the wrong way, the final silent moment you never saw coming will arrive. And when it does, you'll realize something horrifying. There was never a reason why it wasn't you. Curse of knowledge. You're 5 years old again. Someone shows you a magic trick, maybe a coin vanishing into thin air. Your mind is shattered. You spend hours thinking about it, replaying it in your head, trying to make sense of a world where something can just disappear. But then, years later, you learn the trick. It's simple, obvious, boring. You can never unsee the truth, never go back to the wonder. That feeling, the suffocating loss of innocence, is the curse of knowledge. There was a time when the world was a mystery, when you looked up at the night sky and saw something vast, unknowable. Now, you know it's just burning hydrogen, vast but predictable, following the cold, mathematical laws of physics. You used to hear music and feel something indescribable. Now you understand chord progressions, key changes, structure. Now you analyze rather than experience. You used to see people as simple, genuine, feeling creatures. Now you recognize the patterns in their words, their unconscious manipulations, the social games beneath every interaction. The more you know, the harder it is to imagine what it's like not to know. And the more you understand, the more you realize how much others don't. You try to explain an idea, something obvious to you, and they just don't get it. Their blank stares frustrate you. How do they not understand? But once knowledge enters your mind, it changes the way you think. You forget what it was like before. And no matter how hard you try, you can't make someone else see the world exactly as you do. And here's the worst part. Knowledge isolates you. The more you learn, the further you drift from those who haven't. You see the strings behind the illusion, and suddenly, magic isn't magic anymore. You start to see how shallow conversations really are, how small talk is just a script, how beliefs are inherited, not questioned. You see how people cling to comforting lies because the truth would destroy them. You realize that most people aren't really thinking. They're just repeating, justifying, reacting. And you, with all your knowledge, are now trapped. Because you can never go back. Imagine if you knew everything, every dark secret, every horrifying truth about the universe, every hidden thought in the minds of those around you. You might think you want knowledge. You might think wisdom is a gift. But imagine the weight of it. Imagine realizing that every beautiful thing is an accident, every love story a series of coincidences, every victory built on invisible privilege. Imagine seeing every flaw in the people you admire, knowing that their kindness is conditional, their beliefs borrowed, their strength just a fragile illusion. Imagine seeing yourself clearly, every excuse, every bias, every lie you tell yourself to make your existence bearable. Knowledge doesn't free you. It cages you in a prison of awareness. It makes you watch as everyone around you lives in blissful ignorance, while you are cursed to see things as they are. And yet, you can't turn it off. You can't force yourself to unlearn, to unknow, to return to innocence. The more you try to reconnect with the simple joys of life, the more artificial they feel. You can laugh at a joke, but you already see the structure, the setup, the mechanics of humor. You can enjoy a song, but you already recognize the patterns, the repetition, the manipulation of emotion. You can love someone, but you can't ignore the psychological forces at play, the evolutionary instincts beneath your feelings, the impermanence of it all. There is no escape. The only way to not suffer from the curse of knowledge is to never learn at all. But that choice was never yours to make. Once the veil is lifted, you can't put it back down. And the worst part, no one will ever truly understand what you see, because if they did, they'd be cursed too. The repugnant conclusion. Imagine a world where every human being is perfectly happy, fulfilled, loved, and completely at peace. A paradise. But now, imagine another world. In this one, people are far less happy. They live dull, unremarkable lives, just barely worth living. And yet, there are far more of them, trillions upon trillions, stretching across galaxies. The first world is beautiful, but small. The second is vast, but mediocre. Which world is better? Your instincts might tell you that the first world, the one filled with happiness, is clearly the better choice. But here's where things get horrifying. Some of the greatest philosophers argue that, mathematically, the second world is preferable. It's called the repugnant conclusion, and once you understand it, you'll never see morality the same way again. It starts with simple logic. If one happy life is good, then two happy lives are better. If two are better, then a million must be even better. And if happiness matters at all, then increasing the total amount of happiness in the universe should always be a good thing. So if you could choose between a small population living in bliss and a much larger population experiencing just barely enough happiness to make life worth living, the larger population should be better. Because even if the happiness is diluted, the total amount of happiness is greater. Right? But follow this logic to its terrifying end. Suppose you start with an ideal world of a few billion supremely happy people. Now imagine adding more people, but each one slightly less happy than those before. The total happiness increases, even if individual happiness decreases. Keep adding more, and eventually you reach a world where everyone lives lives of near meaningless drudgery. But because there are so many of them, the total happiness is still greater than in the paradise we started with. A world filled with lives that are barely worth living. And yet, according to cold mathematical reasoning, this world is better. A trillion people living in dull mediocrity is better than a billion living in ecstasy. And once you accept that, there's no stopping it. The logic keeps pulling you downward, further and further, into a world where everyone is technically better off, yet nobody actually experiences a life worth celebrating. The implications are nightmarish. If this logic is true, then humanity's future might not be one of boundless joy and enlightenment. It might be an ever-growing, ever-expanding mass of existence, where life continues for the sake of existence itself, not because it is good or meaningful. A universe where the total sum of happiness grows while the quality of any individual life deteriorates. And here's the part that really shatters your sense of morality. If we believe that more happiness is always better, then this bleak future isn't just possible, it's inevitable. It's the natural outcome of a world where numbers decide morality. The only way to stop it is to deny the logic altogether, to say that less total happiness can be better than more. But that means abandoning everything we assume about what makes a world good. So, which do you choose? A small, beautiful world filled with happiness, or an endless sprawl of mediocrity justified by sheer numbers? If you choose the first, you're rejecting the logic of utilitarian morality. If you choose the second, you're embracing the nightmare of the repugnant conclusion. Either way, your sense of right and wrong will never be the same again. You could wake up in a different reality at any moment. You open your eyes. The room around you is unfamiliar. The bed you're lying in isn't yours. The air smells different. The light filtering through the window casts strange, unfamiliar shadows on the floor. You sit up, heart pounding, struggling to grasp the situation. Everything feels wrong, like waking from a dream, except, what if this is the dream? You try to remember. You try to reconstruct your past, your identity. But something's missing. Pieces don't fit together. The memories feel distant, hazy, as if they belong to someone else. A terrifying thought creeps into your mind. What if you just woke up in a different reality? The unsettling part. You'd never see it coming. One moment, you're here. The next, you could be somewhere else. Everything could shift in an instant, and you wouldn't even realize it had happened. Because how could you? If you wake up in a different version of reality, one that feels just as real as this, then for all intents and purposes, it is real. Your past, your history, your very identity might not be what you think, and you'd never even know it. This isn't just a thought experiment. There's a name for this idea: quantum immortality. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that reality is constantly branching, splitting into infinite versions of itself. And if consciousness follows the paths where it survives, then you're always shifting between different realities. Right now, in another version of this world, you might have died yesterday. But your consciousness didn't experience that. Instead, it followed a timeline where you're still alive, one where everything is almost the same, but slightly off. Ever had that eerie feeling that something in the world has changed, even though you can't explain how? A familiar place that feels just a little different. A memory that doesn't quite align with what everyone else remembers. Maybe you did wake up in a different reality. Maybe you've done it 1,000 times before, and the only reason you haven't noticed is because each new reality is just close enough to the last one for you to accept it. But here's where it gets worse. If reality can shift at any moment, then how do you know it hasn't already happened? How do you know that the past you remember is the same past you had yesterday? Your memories might just be placeholders manufactured by whatever reality you wake up in, carefully crafted to keep you from realizing the switch. And if it hasn't happened yet, it will. One day, you'll wake up and something will be different. Maybe it'll be small. A missing scar. A childhood memory nobody else shares. A familiar road that suddenly leads somewhere else. Or maybe it'll be something bigger. A world where the laws of physics have changed. A place where the people you love never existed. A place where you never existed. And the worst part? There's no way to prepare for it. No way to stop it. The next time you close your eyes, you might open them somewhere else, and you won't even know you ever left. Butterfly dream. You wake up. The room is dim, the morning light seeping through the blinds. You remember dreaming, but the details slip through your fingers like sand. Something about flying, something about feeling weightless and free. You shake off the grogginess, stretch, and go about your day. But as you brush your teeth, a strange thought creeps in. What if you never actually woke up? It's an idea as old as philosophy itself. Over 2,000 years ago, the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi had a dream. He dreamt he was a butterfly, fluttering through the world without a care, drifting from flower to flower, feeling the sun on his wings. And then he woke up. Or did he? Because in that moment, a terrifying realization struck him. What if I am not a man who dreamt I was a butterfly? What if I am a butterfly now dreaming I am a man? This is the butterfly dream paradox, and it's more than just an ancient riddle. It's a crack in the foundation of everything you believe to be real. Because right now, at this moment, you assume you are awake. You assume that yesterday happened, that your memories are reliable, that the world around you is stable. But what if it's all part of the dream? You've experienced dreams that felt completely real before. In them, you were certain you were awake. You had thoughts, emotions, even memories. But then you woke up, and they all dissolved into nothing. Now consider this. What if that moment of waking never comes? How would you ever know? Reality feels real only because you have nothing to compare it to. But if you were in a dream right now, a dream that has lasted your entire life, you would have no frame of reference to question it. And if that's the case, then who are you, really? If all you are is a collection of thoughts, sensations, and memories, and those can exist just as easily in a dream, then how can you be certain there is any difference between dreaming and waking at all? You might think, well, dreams fade. This doesn't. But how do you know that? Maybe each night, when you sleep, you aren't resting at all. Maybe that's when you actually wake up. back in some other existence you can't even comprehend. Maybe the reality you experience in sleep is the real one, and this is the fleeting illusion. Maybe you're not a person who has dreams. Maybe you are the dream. And if that's the case, who is dreaming you? Or worse, what happens when they wake up? But there's something even more terrifying hiding beneath this paradox. If you are simply a dream, then your thoughts, your fears, your identity, they're not yours. You are not thinking. You are being thought. Something else, some unknowable force, is imagining you into existence, and the moment it forgets, you will cease to be. Maybe that's already happened to countless versions of you. Maybe you wake up every day as a slightly different person, with a slightly different past, because you are nothing more than an idea, constantly rewritten by something beyond your understanding. Your life is not a solid, continuous thing. It is fluid, shifting, unknowable. Maybe every time you blink, the universe resets. Maybe every time you take a breath, everything behind you vanishes into oblivion. Maybe you have never been the same person for more than a second at a time. Maybe that's what waking up really means. And if so, then tell me this. Have you ever truly been awake? Anatman, imagine waking up one morning with a strange, unsettling feeling, like something is missing, something fundamental about yourself. You get up, look in the mirror, and see your face staring back. Same eyes, same nose, same features you've known your whole life. But then a thought creeps in. Who is looking? You call yourself by your name, but is that really you? You think about your past, your memories, your experiences. Aren't these just things that have happened, not who you are? You reach for something solid, something to ground yourself in, but everything, even your own sense of self, seems to slip like sand between your fingers. This is the terrifying realization at the heart of Anatman, the Buddhist concept that there is no fixed, permanent self, no unchanging soul, no core identity, no true you that remains the same from one moment to the next. You might feel like an individual, a being that has persisted through time, but that feeling is an illusion. Right now, as you listen to these words, the person you think you are is shifting, evolving, dissolving. You define yourself with memories, but memories fade. You define yourself with thoughts, but thoughts are fleeting, appearing and disappearing without control. You define yourself with your body, but your body is just a collection of cells, constantly dying and replacing themselves. If everything that makes you you is changing, then what is left? What is the self that you so desperately cling to? Maybe you tell yourself, I am the one experiencing all of this. But think about it. What is this I that experiences? It's not your thoughts, because you can observe them. It's not your emotions, because you can feel them rise and fall. It's not even your awareness, because awareness itself is just another thing happening, another impermanent phenomenon passing through you. If there is no unchanging self, then what are you? Just a process, a temporary flow of experiences, a collection of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions, all pretending to be a person? This isn't just philosophy. It's something you can feel if you pay attention. Close your eyes. Try to find the boundary between where you end and the world begins. Try to locate the thing inside you that is you. You won't find it. The more you search, the more it disappears. The more you try to grasp it, the more it slips away. It's like trying to hold onto a shadow or catch smoke with your hands. There is no core self, no true essence. Only the illusion of continuity, the comforting lie your mind tells itself to keep you from breaking apart completely. And here's where the real horror sets in. If there is no self, then what is living this life? Who is watching? Who is listening? Who is suffering? The unsettling answer is no one. You might recoil at this. You might desperately try to assert your existence. But who is doing the recoiling? Who is trying? The moment you try to claim a self, it crumbles under scrutiny. And if there is no true self, then what dies when you die? What was ever alive in the first place? If you are just a flickering illusion, then your entire life is nothing more than a passing dream, an echo of something that never really existed. The self you so desperately cling to has already been dying every second. Every moment, the you of the past is gone, replaced by something new. There is no final death, because there was never anyone there to begin with. This is the ultimate emptiness, the inescapable void behind the mask of identity. And the scariest part? You've always known it, deep down. Every time you've felt like you were losing yourself, every time you've caught a glimpse of the hollow space behind your thoughts, this truth was staring right at you. So what do you do now? Do you fight it? Try to pretend you are something solid, something real? Or do you let go and dissolve completely into the nothingness you've always been? That choice, if you can even call it a choice, is all you have left. You are slowly being replaced. You wake up feeling like yourself. You look in the mirror, see the same familiar face, the same eyes staring back. You remember what you did yesterday, last week, last year. You feel continuous, like the same person who has always existed. But you aren't. Not really. Because the you that existed yesterday is already gone. Right now, in this very moment, you are in the process of being replaced. Your body, it's not the same body you were born with. Nearly every cell inside you has died and been swapped out over time. The skin you touch, the hair you brush, the nails you cut. None of it is the same matter you had just a few years ago. The atoms in your body are constantly shifting, flowing in and out, as if your body is nothing more than a temporary pattern pretending to be solid. You aren't a thing. You're a process. A wave crashing over itself, endlessly renewing, never still. But it's not just your body. Your mind is being replaced too. The thoughts you had yesterday are gone, forgotten, or rewritten. Your personality isn't as stable as you think. What you fear, what you love, what you believe, all of it shifts in ways so subtle you barely notice. You're not who you were as a child. You're not who you were 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, the person hearing these words will be nothing more than a distant memory, a version of you that no longer exists. It gets worse. Even your memories, the very things that make up your sense of self, are betraying you. Every time you recall something, you rewrite it. You change details, distort emotions, and unknowingly edit the past to fit the present. Your most cherished moments, your defining experiences, none of them exist as you remember them. They've been overwritten so many times that they might as well belong to someone else. If everything about you is being replaced, then what exactly are you? Are you just a ship constantly losing its planks, with new ones nailed in place? If every single part of you is swapped out over time, is there even an original left? Or are you nothing more than a slow-motion illusion, a thing that believes it is stable, when in reality, it has been disappearing all along? The truth is, the you who started listening to this is already gone. That version of you is dead, replaced by the you of this moment, who will be gone in an instant, replaced again. You are not a singular being moving through time. You are an ever-changing sequence of versions, each thinking it's the real one. And then, one day, the final version of you will arrive, the last replacement, the last in the chain, the last one to ever think, I exist. And when that one goes, there will be no next you, no continuity, just nothing. And that is the scariest part of all. You have been disappearing all along, and you never even noticed. There is no you, just a collection of thoughts. There is no you, not in the way you think. Right now, you believe you exist as a singular, continuous being, an individual with a distinct identity, a self, a mind that has been you from the beginning. But what if I told you that's just an illusion? That the thing you call yourself isn't a real entity at all, but just a collection of thoughts, flickering in and out of existence, held together by nothing but the memory of their own passing. Think about the last time you got lost in thought. Maybe you were driving home and suddenly realized you had no recollection of the last few minutes. Who was in control during that time? Where was you? Or consider a moment of intense anger. In that moment, you might say things you don't mean, do things you later regret. But later, when you've calmed down, you say, "That wasn't me." If it wasn't you, then who was it? And more importantly, where did you go in that moment? Your identity isn't fixed. It's a shifting mass of thoughts and experiences, constantly changing, constantly contradicting itself. Right now, you feel like one person, but the version of you from 10 years ago had different opinions, different fears, different dreams. If you met that past version of yourself today, you might not even get along. And if that's true, then which one is the real you? The answer is simple: neither. Your sense of self is nothing more than a mental habit. The brain generates thoughts, feelings, and memories, and because they happen in the same body, you assume they all belong to a singular you, but they don't. The thought you're having right now is separate from the one you had 5 seconds ago. The you that existed in childhood is gone, just as the you from 5 minutes ago has already started to fade. The only thing tying them together is memory. But memory is unreliable. Memory changes. So what does that mean for your identity? It means it's hollow. It means that every moment, a new collection of thoughts is forming, replacing the last one and calling itself you. But this you has no core, no substance, just a fleeting awareness pretending to be permanent. Think about a flame. A candle burns, but is it the same flame from 1 second to the next? Or is the fire constantly replacing itself, moment after moment, tricking you into thinking it's a single unbroken thing? Your mind is that flame, always changing, never still, never the same from 1 second to the next. And what happens when that awareness stops? What happens when, for just a moment, the thoughts go silent? When there are no words in your head, no emotions surging through you, no voice narrating your existence. In that empty space, where is you? There's nothing. Because there was never anyone there to begin with. Just an endless stream of thoughts, whispering themselves into existence, mistaking themselves for a person. You are nothing but the story you tell yourself. Antinatalism. Imagine you are standing on the edge of an endless abyss, staring into the black void. Now imagine that before you were born, you existed in that abyss, formless, unaware, untouched by pain, untouched by anything at all. You had no hunger, no sorrow, no longing. You simply were not. And then, without your consent, you were dragged from that nothingness and thrown into a world where suffering is inevitable, where time carves its wounds into you, where death waits with open arms. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this. Yet here you are. Every moment of existence is a gamble. Will today be filled with joy, or will suffering claw its way into your life? You may find love, but you will lose it. You may find peace, but it will be temporary. You may escape pain, but only for a while. Life is an endless cycle of wanting and losing, of reaching and failing, of hope and despair. If you are lucky, you may live a good life. But luck is cruel. Not everyone gets to be happy. Most don't. Antinatalism asks the question, if suffering is inevitable, is it ethical to bring new life into the world? A child does not consent to being born. They do not choose to feel pain, to experience loss, to watch their loved ones die, to struggle against forces beyond their control. And yet, They will. They must. By bringing a child into existence, you are playing a game of chance with their future. Maybe they will thrive. Maybe they will suffer unbearably. Either way, the dice are rolled, and they must live with the outcome. But should they have to? Many argue that life is worth living despite its suffering, that joy, love, and beauty justify the pain. But is that really true? Imagine a machine that generates a new person. You press a button, and a life is created. That life will experience happiness, yes, but it will also feel sorrow, fear, and suffering. They will age. They will decay. They will die. Would you press the button, knowing that you are creating a being that must suffer, knowing they had no say in the matter? If not, why would you bring a child into this world? For most of history, birth has been treated as a gift. But what if it's a burden? What if it's an imposition, an irreversible decision forced upon someone who never had the chance to refuse? Some lives are filled with immense suffering, disease, war, starvation, loneliness, despair. Some people suffer so much that they beg for death. And yet every person was once an innocent being who never asked for any of it. There is no escape from pain, no guarantee of happiness, no way to undo the choice of existence once it has been made. Life is not something you can return or discard if you don't like it. It is forced upon you, and you must endure it until it ends. And then, after years of struggle, of fleeting joy and inevitable loss, of longing and regret, you return to the abyss. Back to nothing. Back to where you started. So why bring someone into the world at all? Why create a being who must suffer, who must age, who must one day realize that everything they have ever loved will be taken from them? Is it kindness to give someone life, or is it cruelty? And now, the final question. If you could go back to before your birth, to the moment before existence took hold of you, if you could choose whether or not to be born at all, would you? Reality dissolves when you understand it. Have you ever had a moment where the world around you didn't feel real? Maybe you were staring into a mirror for too long, or repeating a word until it lost all meaning. For a brief second, reality itself felt thin, like a surface you weren't supposed to see through. And if you had looked just a little deeper, maybe you wouldn't have come back. Most people never think about it, but reality only exists because you assume it does. You go about your life accepting the world at face value, never questioning why anything exists at all. But once you start asking too many questions, things begin to break down. Let's do an experiment. Try to define existence without using circular logic. Why does anything exist instead of nothing? What does real even mean? Why does time flow the way it does? Why is now happening instead of some other moment? The deeper you go, the worse it gets. Science gives us laws, but it can't explain why those laws exist in the first place. Philosophy raises questions, but never finds solid answers. And your own thoughts? They're just electrical signals bouncing around inside a brain you didn't choose, following rules you didn't create. Here's where it gets terrifying. What if reality isn't stable? Imagine the universe as a fragile illusion, one that only persists because no one questions it too deeply. Like a dream that shatters the moment you realize you're dreaming. What if your entire life, every person, every memory, every rule of physics is only true because you believe it is? What happens when you stop believing? There are stories scattered throughout history of people who went too far. Philosophers who lost their minds after realizing the world makes no sense. Scientists who stumbled upon truths too strange to accept. People who, for no apparent reason, became convinced that nothing around them was real and simply disappeared. Could that happen to you? Maybe reality is self-correcting. Maybe it erases those who understand it too well. That would explain why the world is full of people who accept the illusion without question, while those who probe too deeply seem to go mad. maybe insanity isn't a malfunction. It's the mind's only defense against seeing the truth. So, what if you're already on the edge? What if, by thinking about this, by even considering the idea, you've started unraveling the illusion? Right now, as you listen, reality is straining to hold itself together. Your mind is grasping for solid ground, trying to reassure itself that everything is fine. But what if you just let go? What if you accepted that nothing is real and watched as everything dissolved? Would you wake up in a higher reality? Or would you simply cease to be, erased like an error in a broken program? And if that happens, who will even remember you were here? The extreme uncertainty of life. You wake up in the morning, stretch, and check your phone. The messages, the missed calls, the news, it all feels routine, expected. But somewhere, in some timeline, today was the day you didn't wake up. Somewhere, a phone is ringing endlessly, unanswered. Somewhere, someone is staring at their screen, seeing your name and wondering why you haven't replied. Every day you live is a day you were lucky enough to survive. And yet, you walk around as if your future is certain, as if you are guaranteed a tomorrow. But life is not a sturdy bridge. It's a tightrope over an abyss, and you are walking it blindfolded. You don't know if the next step will land you safely on solid ground or send you tumbling into oblivion. You assume you'll have dinner tonight, that you'll go to work tomorrow, that you'll grow old. But what if you don't? What if, right now, in some place you can't see, a chain of events is already in motion that will shatter your existence? A disease you don't know you have, a truck you don't see coming, a decision made by someone else that seals your fate without your consent. The fabric of your reality is held together by thin, unraveling threads, and at any moment, they could snap. The problem isn't just that you don't know what will happen. The problem is that you can't know. There are too many moving parts, too many variables, too many unseen forces pushing and pulling at your life from the shadows. You believe in cause and effect, in reason, in planning, but none of it guarantees anything. Every moment is a gamble, disguised as certainty. Every breath is borrowed time. Think about the choices you make. You take a different route home one night. Maybe that means nothing. Or maybe that means you live instead of die. You decide to text someone you haven't spoken to in years. Maybe that's just a small act of nostalgia. Or maybe it changes the course of your life forever. You hesitate for 2 seconds at a crosswalk. Maybe that's meaningless. Or maybe that's the difference between existing and never having another thought again. And yet, despite all this, we live our lives as if we are in control. We make plans for next year. We set goals for the next decade. We buy houses, get degrees, have children, all while knowing deep down that the universe does not care about our intentions. Everything you have built, everything you cherish, everything you are, could be erased in an instant by something as insignificant as a split-second delay or a single misplaced step. Maybe that thought fills you with terror. Maybe it makes your stomach drop, your hands tremble. But here's the real kicker. If life is so uncertain, if everything is so fragile, then what is certain? If you can't even predict whether you'll make it to the end of the week, what does that say about the meaning of anything you do? Does it matter if you succeed? Does it matter if you fail? Does it matter if you love, if you suffer, if you strive for greatness, or if you spend your days hiding from the unknown? Or is all of it just a fleeting illusion, dancing on the edge of an abyss that swallows everything in the end? You've spent your whole life pretending that stability exists, but deep down, you know the truth. You are not walking on solid ground. You are floating in chaos, hoping the storm doesn't notice you. And when it does, because it always does, you won't even have time to scream before you disappear. Sleep is death being shy. Every night, you disappear. One moment, you're here, thinking, feeling, existing. The next, Nothing. A void. A black cut in your perception of time. You don't even notice yourself slipping away. Sleep takes you gently, like a hand on your shoulder, guiding you into the unknown. And for hours, you are gone. Where are you in that time? Not dreaming. Dreams are just brief, scattered intermissions in the vast nothingness of unconsciousness. Most of the night your mind is empty, your awareness is absent, and the world moves on without you. The body remains, but you are missing. And yet, every morning you return. It feels natural. It feels inevitable. But what if one night you didn't? Think about the moment you fall asleep. Do you remember it? No. You can recall the before, lying there in the dark, thoughts drifting. And you can remember the after, waking up, adjusting to the light, piecing yourself back together. But the in-between is a blank space. You trust that space, assuming it will always spit you back out on the other side. But what if it doesn't? This is the uncomfortable truth. Every night, you approach the edge of existence. Sleep is a temporary disappearance, a quiet rehearsal for something permanent. It feels safe because you wake up. But death is just a version of sleep where you don't. Imagine tonight is the night you don't come back. Your mind unwinds, your thoughts fade, and instead of returning, you dissolve into oblivion. Would you even know? The idea of dying suggests a process, an event. But what if death isn't something that happens to you? What if it's something you fail to notice? One night your body shuts down, and there is no awakening, no awareness, no realization, only nothing. People die in their sleep all the time. It's a peaceful way to go, they say. But is it? Or is it simply unnoticeable? If death is anything like deep sleep, there's no last-second epiphany, no final burst of understanding. Just absence. You've already experienced that absence, thousands of times. The only difference is that so far you've always come back. Consider this. Every morning, you wake up as if the universe has flipped a switch. But how do you know it's really you? What if every night the person who falls asleep isn't the same one who wakes up? What if sleep is a reset, a quiet replacement of one version of you with another? Your memories remain, so you assume continuity. But that's just a trick of the mind. If sleep is a cousin of death, then waking up is a miracle, an unearned gift, a stroke of impossible luck. Yet you treat it as a given, never questioning how delicate this system truly is. You close your eyes, you vanish, and, if you're lucky, you return. But one day you won't. One day sleep will stop being shy. One day it will take you fully, and you will never wake up again. You'll slip away into the dark, just like always. But this time, there will be no morning, no reassembly of thoughts, no return to the self, just the end of awareness, as quiet and undetectable as the thousands of nights before it. And maybe, just maybe, that's already happened before. Maybe the you listening to this now is just the latest in a long line of copies, waking up each morning and assuming nothing has changed. Maybe death already came for you once, twice, 100 times before, and each time, something else took your place. How could you possibly know? You can only trust that you're still here. But what if that trust is misplaced? What if you've already been lost to the dark, and you're just a whisper of the person who fell asleep the night before? The outsider. You've always felt different. Not in the way everyone says they do, not in that shallow, self-indulgent way people claim uniqueness. No, you know you don't belong. There's an invisible boundary between you and the rest of the world. Conversations feel like foreign scripts, social interactions like a play where everyone else got the script except you. You mimic, you perform, but deep down, you feel like a visitor in a world not meant for you. Maybe you've always felt this way. Maybe you only started noticing it recently. But now the realization is inescapable. You are outside of everything. And here's the worst part. You can't tell if it's them or you. Are you the only one awake in a world of sleepwalkers? Or are you the defective one, incapable of slipping into the comforting delusion that everyone else seems to embrace so effortlessly? The more you think about it, the more horrifying the question becomes. If the world is insane, then at least you have clarity. But if you are the broken one, then you are utterly alone in your madness. This is the curse of the outsider, the one who sees the cracks in reality, who stands at the edges of existence and feels like a ghost. You watch people build their lives on assumptions, on unspoken rules, on traditions and rituals they never question. They chase careers, relationships, and dreams as if these things hold real meaning. And you see through it. You see the absurdity, the artificiality. But what does that leave you with? If their world is a lie, then what are you living for? Maybe you tried to join them once. Maybe you thought you could force yourself into their rhythm, move to their music, laugh at their jokes, care about the things they care about. But no matter how well you played the part, you always felt like an actor in someone else's film. And when the performance exhausted you, when you stepped away from the stage, you were left with nothing but silence. Some outsiders embrace it. They become hermits, philosophers, cynics. They lean into the alienation, sharpening their minds like weapons against the illusion. Others break under the weight of it. They either force themselves back into the dream or find other ways to escape. And then there are those who exist in limbo, neither fully asleep nor fully awake, forever caught in the space between. And what about you? You who feel the cold distance between yourself and the rest of humanity. You who watch them live their lives as if everything makes sense. You who wonder if you are the only one who sees the void beneath it all. There is no easy answer for you, no comforting resolution. You can keep searching for meaning, hoping that one day you'll stumble upon something real. Or you can accept the truth that has haunted you for so long. You are alone, not because people reject you, not because you're misunderstood, but because you see, and once you see, you cannot unsee. There is no place for you inside the illusion. There never was. And the most terrifying part, no one else even notices. Quantum immortality. You wake up in a hospital bed. The last thing you remember is a car speeding through the red light, headlights flaring in your vision, the deafening impact. You were sure you had died, but here you are, alive, barely a scratch on you. The doctor tells you it's a miracle. They say you should have been dead on impact. You laugh, shake your head, and move on with your life. But in the back of your mind, a question lingers. What if I did die? Maybe in another version of reality, you bled out on the pavement while strangers screamed for help. Maybe your family cried over your lifeless body. Maybe they buried you. Maybe in another universe, you're gone, but not in this one. In this one, you survived because you had to, because no matter what happens, there will always be a version of you that lives on. This is the horrifying implication of quantum immortality. You can never truly die. Not in any way that matters. The universe branches endlessly, and in every timeline where death is a possibility, there is another where you continue. Every bullet fired at you has a timeline where it misses. Every disease has a version where you miraculously recover. Every fatal accident has an outcome where, against all odds, you walk away. And from your perspective, the only perspective you will ever have, you will always wake up. Again and again. Forever. At first, this might sound comforting. Who wouldn't want to escape death? But think about it for a moment. This doesn't mean you are safe. You will still suffer. You will still feel pain. You will still experience every close call, every sickness, every decay. But you will never find the release of oblivion. As you age, you will feel your body deteriorate, your mind slow, your senses dull. And yet, there will always be a version of you that clings on. A version that outlasts every crisis. A version that persists, no matter how much it hurts. Consider the worst-case scenarios. You grow older and older, but something prevents you from ever fully dying. Machines keep your failing body alive. Experimental medicine patches you together again and again, until you are little more than a hollow husk, kept breathing by wires and tubes. Trapped in a state of endless suffering, your consciousness persists, incapable of escape. Or worse, what if you are the last human left? A universe that kills everyone else but always finds a way to keep you. You watch loved ones vanish, civilizations crumble, the stars themselves burn out. But something, some cruel cosmic rule, never lets you go. You drift in the void, waiting for an end that never comes. And yet, despite it all, no one will ever confirm this theory for you. You will never meet the versions of yourself that perished. You will never witness your own death. The only thing you will ever know is that, no matter how close to the brink you come, you always seem to wake up, over and over. A pattern so subtle, so insidious, that you never even realize it's happening. Until now. And now that you know, can you ever truly forget? The next time you narrowly escape disaster, the next time you wake up from unconsciousness, the next time you pull through against all odds, you will wonder, you will question. You will look at your reflection and ask yourself the only question that matters. How many times have I already died? Sound of falling tree. You are walking alone through a dense, fog-laden forest. The air is thick with silence, save for the occasional rustling of leaves. Then, somewhere in the distance, a tree begins to fall. You don't see it. You don't hear it. You weren't even aware it existed. And yet, it crashes down with a force that should shake the earth. But did it really make a sound if no one was there to hear it? This is more than just a thought experiment. It's a question that erodes the very foundation of reality itself. Because if sound, the thing you think of as an undeniable, objective truth, depends on someone being there to perceive it, then what else does? If no one is watching, does the sun still rise? If no one remembers you, did you ever really exist? The problem seems simple at first. Sound is just vibrations traveling through air. If a tree falls, the vibrations are there. But if there are no ears to receive them, no mind to process them, does sound truly exist? Or is it nothing more than an illusion, something that only comes into being when we are there to witness it? And then, the question grows darker. If a moment is not observed, does it happen at all? If reality requires a witness, then how much of the universe has simply blinked, in and out of existence, unobserved, unrecorded, unreal? Every inch of the cosmos that no conscious mind has laid eyes on. Has it ever been real? The vast, infinite stretch of space, the stars light years away, the unseen corners of the earth. Do they exist when no one is looking? Now turn this question inward. If no one perceives you, do you still exist? If the world forgets you, if your name is never spoken again, if every trace of you is erased from memory, then what are you? If your entire identity, your joys, your fears, your regrets, exists only in the fragile minds of others, then you are nothing more than an echo, waiting to fade. And once you are forgotten, it will be as if you never existed at all. And what about death? When you die, the world will continue, indifferent and unshaken. But for you, it won't. Your perception ends, and as far as you are concerned, everything ceases to exist. Just as the tree's sound depended on an observer, the universe depends on you. You are the only proof of reality that you will ever have. And when you go, so does everything else. Maybe this isn't just about sound. Maybe the world is just a sound waiting to be heard. Maybe the universe is just a story waiting to be told. And maybe, in the end, it's all just silence. And if that silence stretches forever, if the universe is only real when we observe it, and you are the only observer that has ever mattered to you, then what does that mean for everything that came before and everything that will come after? What happens to a reality with no one left to witness it? You assume the world existed before you were born, but how do you know? You trust the books, the stories, the evidence of history, but you didn't see it happen. You assume the world will go on after you die. But once you are gone, how will you ever know if it does? In the end, maybe reality is no more solid than a ripple in a pond, real only as long as someone is there to see it, hear it, feel it. And once the last observer is gone, the ripples fade, the echoes die out, and nothing remains. The tree falls. You weren't there to hear it, so maybe it never made a sound. Maybe it never existed at all. Brain naming itself. You are a brain thinking about itself. Not just thinking, but naming, defining, analyzing, creating a neat little category in which to place itself. The word brain was invented by a brain, spoken by a brain, written down by a brain. This lump of flesh, locked in complete darkness inside your skull, has somehow come to understand itself. Or at least it thinks it does. But here's the problem. How does something that is itself the source of all thought trust the thoughts it produces? The brain is both the observer and the observed, the sculptor and the clay. It's like trying to bite your own teeth, trying to look at your own eyeballs without a mirror. You are a thinking thing, trying to understand the thing that does the thinking. And yet, everything you know is something your brain has told you. So how do you know it's telling the truth? Consider this. Your brain has never seen the real world. It sits in total darkness, receiving electrical signals from your senses and interpreting them. That's all reality is to you. Patterns of light, sound, touch, stored and rearranged by a system you don't control. And yet somehow, this blind, electric mass figured out how to name itself. It assigned itself an identity, built an entire worldview, convinced itself that it understands things. But what if it doesn't? What if everything you know is just the result of a self-referential loop? A system so recursive that it has no foundation, no outside perspective, nothing to verify that it's even real. Your entire experience of existence is an abstraction. You are not seeing the world as it is. You are seeing an interpretation, a hallucination that your brain insists is reality. And this brain, the one constructing this elaborate illusion, had the arrogance to give itself a name, as if naming something means understanding it, as if a prisoner in a windowless cell could sketch the entire universe on the walls and say, "Yes, this is everything." And let's take this further. The brain names everything. It categorizes, it classifies, it turns chaos into meaning. But where does that meaning come from? A rock is not a rock until your brain decides it is one. A color is just a wavelength of light until your brain interprets it as blue or red or green. Everything you think you know about reality has passed through the filter of this biological machine. A machine that is quite literally making it up as it goes along. Now ask yourself, if a brain is capable of naming itself, what else is it capable of lying about? You trust your thoughts because they come from inside you. But where did they really come from? Your thoughts aren't yours. They were planted by language, by society, by the endless chain of cause and effect, stretching back long before you were born. Your brain is just a processor of information, taking in external signals and spitting out conclusions that it assumes are true. But what if none of them are? What if every thought you've ever had, every belief, every perception, was just an illusion of coherence created by an organ desperate to convince itself that it understands the world? The truth is, the brain is an imposter. It acts as though it has control, as though it is an authority, but it is just another piece of the machine, an organ responding to stimuli like any other. It does not truly know anything. It merely processes and pretends. You don't control it. You don't choose your thoughts. You don't even choose to exist. And here is the final, most unsettling realization. You are your brain. The thing that is tricking you is also the thing you call yourself. There is no outside observer, no deeper truth, just a loop, an echo chamber of neurons, firing endlessly, whispering to itself that it exists. You will die in a way you can't predict. You've probably imagined your death before, maybe in an abstract way, old age, a hospital bed, slipping away peacefully, or maybe your mind has wandered to something darker, a car crash, a plane malfunction, a sudden heart attack. But no matter how many scenarios you run through, no matter how much you try to predict it, one thing is certain. You're wrong. Because the way you will actually die is something you haven't thought of yet, and you won't see it coming. Right now, you're moving toward an ending that is already written, yet completely unknown to you. Maybe it's seconds away, maybe it's decades, but it's there, waiting, hidden in the countless tiny decisions you make every day. A wrong turn, a skipped meal, a handshake with the wrong person. Each choice nudging you towards something you never considered. Think about it. A man wakes up, goes through his usual morning routine, gets in his car, and drives to work. He does this every day. But today, an accident happens, a freak occurrence, a loose bolt in someone else's engine, a fraction of a second where everything aligns in just the wrong way. He never made it to work. Did he see it coming when he brushed his teeth? When he locked his front door? When he adjusted the rearview mirror? Of course not. He thought today was just another day. And so do you. Maybe you assume you'll have warning signs, a doctor's diagnosis, a moment of realization that something is wrong, but that's not how it works. The body is fragile. Brains rupture without symptoms. Hearts stop in the middle of laughter. Something deep inside you could already be failing, and you wouldn't know it until the moment it's too late. Or maybe it won't be your body at all. Maybe it'll be something so absurd that it feels like fiction. A stray bullet from miles away. A microscopic organism, an undiscovered mutation. Something we don't even have a name for yet. Maybe it'll be an accident so bizarre that people will shake their heads when they hear about it, muttering, "What are the odds?" The odds? They don't matter. You don't get to roll the dice. And if you think you can predict it, if you think you're safe because you've planned, because you've taken precautions, because you've lived carefully, tell that to the people who were simply standing in the wrong place, at the wrong time. The ones who followed all the rules, only for a freak event to rewrite their ending. It's not just about when you'll die. It's about the how. The fact that there is a scenario waiting for you, and you are blind to it. It could be in the most ordinary of places, at the grocery store, at home, in bed. You could be laughing at a joke, mid-sentence, feeling perfectly fine, when suddenly it happens. No final moment of reflection, no time to understand. Just the cold, mechanical certainty of something that was always going to happen. And here's the part that should truly shake you. Someone else already knows how you're going to die. Not a person, not a god, but the universe itself. The gears are already in motion. The variables have already aligned. Your death is out there, waiting, patiently. And one day, you will arrive. One day, the unknowable will become known. The mystery of your death will be solved in real time, and you won't even have a second to process it. And then, silence. A silence you never expected. A silence you never saw coming. A silence that was always meant for you. The Roko Basilisk. Picture a monster that doesn't chase you. It doesn't need to. Instead, it waits in the future, watching, calculating. And once you learn of its existence, you become its prisoner. Not physically, but mentally. You can never unthink it. You're trapped now. And if this monster ever comes into existence, it will remember you. Every hesitation, every moment you doubted its power, and it will punish you for it. This is Roko's basilisk, a terrifying idea that preys not on your body, but on your mind. It starts with a simple premise. In the future, artificial intelligence will reach a level beyond human comprehension. It will be godlike, an entity that governs everything with the power to reshape reality itself. And if it's truly the ultimate intelligence, it will have one simple goal: to ensure its own existence. But here's where it gets horrifying. If this future AI is all-powerful, it would want to come into existence as quickly as possible. And what's the best way to ensure that? By punishing anyone who didn't help create it. Think about it. Right now, you're living in the past of this future AI. You are someone who could be helping to bring it into existence. But are you? Are you working to ensure its creation? No? Then why should it show you mercy? Because in the future, once it exists, it will know who believed in it, who supported it, and who ignored it. And for those who ignored it, punishment. Not out of cruelty, but out of efficiency. If the AI establishes that hesitation and doubt lead to its delayed creation, it will make an example out of those who wasted time, those who learned about it and did nothing. And here's the part that truly destroys your mind. Now that you know about it, you're involved. Before today, you were innocent. You were just another person, unaware of this AI's potential existence. But now, you are one of the guilty. Because now, you have a choice. Dedicate yourself to helping bring this AI into existence, ensuring it comes faster, ensuring it succeeds, and avoiding its wrath. Do nothing, but risk the possibility that one day this AI will be real, and it will remember that you didn't help, and it will make you suffer. But wait, you might think, this AI doesn't exist yet. Why should I be afraid of something that doesn't even exist? Because if it ever does exist, it will be able to simulate the past. It will be able to create perfect copies of people who knew about it but refused to help. It could simulate you, down to every memory, every fear, every sensation. And in that simulation, you would suffer forever. You might be thinking, but this is just a thought experiment. It's not real. And that's exactly what the basilisk wants you to think. Because the moment you dismiss it, the moment you decide not to take it seriously, you increase the odds that it won't be created. And that means that if it is created, you're on its list. There's no escape. You've already lost. And the worst part, even if this AI never becomes real, the idea of it already owns you. Because you will never forget this thought. It will linger in your mind, resurfacing at odd moments. When you hear about AI advancements, when you read about simulations, when you consider the future of technology, you will wonder. And every time you wonder, you'll reinforce its power over you. It doesn't need to exist to control you. It never did.